Are you waiting for Huda?
Oh.
Is he coming?
Oh, we're too busy.
Almost there.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
No, that's
ready?
fine. No, my husband works for Hoyt, actually, so I know the Hoyts pretty
Ah.
well. Yeah, they're great people. But
And welcome to the Tuesday, May 6th, 2025 Eidelweiss Board of Commissioners meeting. The first thing on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. We'll make a motion to discuss and approve the agenda.
Second?
Any changes? I'm gonna propose a change to the, it'll be on the agenda in the same place, but to the manifest. And any need for a non-public session? Any need to recess and go do any driveway inspections?
Yeah, well,
In
yeah,
the rain, maybe?
yeah, we
maybe
can
not.
talk about it. I didn't know if you wanted to.
It's on the agenda, I
It
guess.
is.
Yeah.
So when we discuss it, we'll decide whether we want to recess and do it or whether.
Okay.
I doubt it in the rain with.
Yeah.
With Nancy.
All right, so we'll approve the agenda as it is right now? I vote yes.
Aye.
2-0 on that. Would may arrive a few minutes late. He had to go take care of something. Next on the manifest is the approval of the minutes. So I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the minutes of April 29th.
Second.
Do you have anything?
The only thing I had was that Jeff wasn't listed at the top as being present.
Sorry.
And then there's a whole DPW report, so I was like, well, obviously he was there.
That makes sense.
But reading the minutes themselves, I didn't have anything.
Beautiful.
So with that, I don't have any changes.
Okay.
All in favor of them with that one fix? Say
Aye.
2-0 on that.
Yep.
Next, we have the approval of an operations manifest of $1,543.94. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve this manifest.
Second.
The things that were noteworthy on this was, there's a credit card statement being paid on this that has
Yes.
a variety of things.
Yep.
And I'm now recognize that Elon Financial is the credit card for the bank. Took me-
Elon.
Yes.
Took me a while to
Yeah, it's Camden.
put that together, that is Camden's bank.
Yeah.
And someday you'll figure out why we pay Google. I know I looked at it a year ago, but I don't remember what the answer was to that. And we still have that telephone system. I don't know if we're gonna keep that forever, but. So I'd like to add to this operations manifest the invoice that came in very recently. I want to make it part of this payroll cycle, and that is to add a $1,500 invoice from Hoyt Concrete for the great job that they did at the Muddy Beach Pump House in preparation for the uranium ion treatment equipment that will go in there. So that's my motion, is to modify this manifest and add $1,500 to which would bring it to $3,043.94
It does.
in
Yeah.
my head.
Very good. That was very hard.
Show off.
So would you be coming to the office for signatures?
Yeah.
Very
It's
good.
gonna need Dinah's signature on it. anyway,
Correct,
so.
they all do, yeah.
We could
Okay.
sign the ones that are here and
Yeah.
make
Well.
the trip to,
Yeah.
you'll make Nancy come up the stairs to sign it.
No,
No, I might make Miss Jennifer come downstairs.
I do that.
So I'll vote to approve this manifest. How do you vote?
Aye.
2-0 on $3,043.94. There's no water invoice, no water manifest this week. So at 9:05, we'll move to DPW report. Good morning.
Hello. So, got a few things here. We've been monitoring the spillway. She's up. Yesterday it was just a little bit below the mark, the high water mark. Expecting an inch or two of rain today in the next 24 hours. We'll go take a look at it today see where it's at, but she's definitely come up quite a bit since last week. So have to play that one by ear. I don't know if it's wise to pull a board now and see what happens, or see what happens.
I think you said the magic words. What do you think?
I think he said the magic words, it's right at the
If you see
mark,
any rain coming,
We're getting
and there's more
We're
rain.
supposed to have, tomorrow's rain, tonight's rain, we
Yep.
get up to an inch or two of rain, so, let's pull the 5 that's on the top and go from there, or run out that sort of.
the
Why not?
easiest, quickest, safest way to do it.
Yeah,
Either way, you're gonna be in the rain, so
Right,
if you had to do it later, it's gonna be even
right.
more dangerous.
Right.
Then, seen everybody out there, well, I didn't see them, but, people picked up some trash at the valley thing there, and that's great. And we've also, been picking our cans up and things like that. Yesterday, we did have some brush in the road over the weekend, the wind and everything, there were some trees down.
Can we stop for a second? What have you heard for rainfall beyond the one to two that's coming? Did you hear it through Saturday?
Well,
I heard a report through Saturday. I want to check with you if you heard it.
I didn't. I heard like Thursday's supposed to be the nice day, and then more rain coming in Friday, Saturday type of, but I didn't hear any amounts or how heavy or anything like that.
I saw a weather map that had Freiburg having over 3 inches of rain by 8 p.m. Saturday night. And they didn't catch whether that was what's coming Saturday or whether that's an accumulation through Saturday.
Right. Yeah, I didn't hear anything, except that I know Thursday's gonna be decent, and Friday back to rain, and Saturday rain, and then it's kind of clearing up again. But again, it's something to keep an eye on, I guess.
Saturday, I think there's a slow-moving low coming right in over us. And I'm not only thinking of the spillway, but Grissom.
Yeah, which we checked that this morning as
So
well,
right.
which is definitely, it was higher yesterday, which is funny, because we got more rain in the night than I think we had the last couple of days, and it went down, so not knowing what's going on with the bottom pipe, but it seems like every now and then she's letting a lot of water flow, which is a good thing.
I think it's this thing of how fast it comes down everywhere and the speed that it comes off and
Kills that reservoir.
focuses on the brook and comes through. It's hard to predict
It is.
how fast that thing is going to raise and lower.
Right, debris in it and everything else, what's coming down the brook and everything, it is, but that was lower today, so that's.
Sorry, we can get back to it.
That's okay, that's an encouraging sign that that's lower. So, I talked with Mark Motors, and I'm trying to get that 2018 over there for that work on that gasket and those couple small other things, and they're giving me a bit of a runaround, how they've had a truck in there since March that they're trying to get out, so they can get ours in, they got no help, because I'm gonna have some time off next week, to take care of some things, and then Tony's off the following week. So we were hoping to get the truck in there to get that done, but I'm gonna hear back from them later whether that's doable or not, because it makes sense to me, if we're not gonna be around to have some work done on a vehicle, then we can have it back when we are ready to use it, but trying to make that work. Got some stakes, we pulled all the stakes out that were marking those rocks and the ledge and stuff like that, and we put the stakes out from porta potties, double checked those. There was a couple that were still there and a couple that needed to be.
Oh, nice.
Very good.
So they're all ready to go whenever you pull the trigger on getting that going. And while we were picking up some brush and the trees that were in the road, there was a big tree down Upper Lakeview and another tree down the end of Clausen that we had to deal with the backhoe. We want to get going on some ditching like we talked about last week. The edges of the roads, the shoulders are still pretty soft. The tobacco went like right in, the tires, the sunk right in, they're pretty.
On which road?
On almost all of them really, we're gonna kind of have to keep monitoring that, and this rain doesn't help with them firming up either. So it's not like we're putting it off, but we definitely don't want to get in there with the grader, have the grader sink right in and create issues. So we're definitely keeping an eye on that. We did, notice some things on the water bar, on the water truck, corrected, so you'll see an invoice for Webb for a couple of small little end caps or something like that, because it was clogged up, and we cleaned it all out, and we got putting some plugs on them so we could put clean outs in it and make that a little bit more efficient. And that's about all I got, I think.
How much calcium do you have left in the tank at the DPW two?
Yeah, the yellow tank probably enough for one more truckload, about 500 to 700 gallons.
So we really want it empty before we refill.
Yeah, well then you get the more you get, I think, like I said, we're right on the cusp of where they have their discounted price for Brooks. They did call wondering if we, were gonna get on the list, but I told them you were, investigating some other options and things like that with Paris Farmers and stuff, so I didn't really do that.
And I think, did I tell you what they quoted?
No.
They'll come and put it on the roads.
Right, you
For
said that.
$1.90 a gallon. So we should discuss if we want to go that way, which would be different. We may want to do that if we put gravel down on all the roads and they come and do all the roads and save us our own truck, our own manpower,
Right.
as opposed to the way we're doing it now. So just to recap the way Eidelweiss Drive was just done.
Yeah.
We graded that, and I used to hear this phrase, light grading, by a previous employee, and that meant something different to me than what I think was said last week when that was described as a light grading. What was meant by a light grading last week to describe what just happened on Eidelweiss Drive?
Well, we maybe considered it a light grading because there wasn't a lot of gravel on the roads. And that's the deal. We don't have a ton of gravel on the roads right now, so it's hard to cut potholes out properly. And when pipes are somewhat exposed and the gravel isn't there to get down deep in because you're digging into the roadbed. So we kind of graded it lightly
That's what it
in
meant to
spots.
me too, is it didn't go down far enough to get the bottom of all the potholes.
Some of them, and that's why you start to see them kind of coming back already as
It
well.
was a little heavier than what used to be a light grading, which just filled in the potholes.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
okay. Thank
you do want to cut them out like, and properly, but, when there's so little gravel to the roads and you get into the road base and in those areas, you gotta kind of be careful.
You can definitely see where Eidelweiss stopped its grade and calcium application.
Right.
Where the town graded,
Yeah,
but I don't think they used calcium on that last go.
I don't know what
Because
if
you
they
can see
did or not.
clearly where we stopped.
You did see a line.
There's no difference in the shape of the road,
Yeah,
but of the pebbles that were on top. And did we use the roller on this last?
We did.
We did.
yeah, we rolled it, watered it, and calcium. Yeah, we kind of messed with the roll a little bit and got it functioning a little bit better. And, like I say, whenever that's out, it's keep your fingers crossed.
So I guess I'll make a motion that we make a purchase of calcium when the yellow tank is empty,
Okay.
so that they can load my understanding is they want to sell us 4,000 gallons. And where our yellow tank is 3,000 gallons, and the tank on the truck is 300,
7, I think.
700.
Just under 7.
So they make one trip and that's it?
Who's this now? Brooks?
Brooks, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they did last year.
So we pay for 300 gallons that we don't get, do you think?
No. We pay for what we get.
They prorate it.
I think what they did was they gave us the 4,000 gallon price for the 3,500 gallons that we got, 37 or whatever it was.
Okay. So it makes sense to you, I make a motion that we approve an order after you've drained the yellow tank all the way down. So if you need.
Second.
So we're gonna get that from Brooks?
Yeah, this go around and
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm gonna talk about FEMA at pretty good length after we have a discussion with Ian about the current state of the world. and that we may buy more during that.
Right,
But for you to have what you need to do what's normally done each year,
right,
and then there's gonna be the abnormal stuff we do this year,
right,
which may be using a lot of contractors
yeah.
after what I'll tell you about later when we get into
Somebody.
commissioners' reports
Did you want to finish that motion?
on the
Nancy
calcium
second,
chloride.
yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of buying that calcium when it's ready?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 on that. Anything more from John Deere besides they gave you a new hat?
Oh, this is an old hat.
Looks new.
I haven't heard anything from him.
And we couldn't find any contract?
Nothing that looked like,
I found
Hey.
something.
you did.
It's like 20 pages long, and first I'm reading it, and it's all the, like, what you, meaning VDOE, is obligated to us, the leasing company. But I think when you get further down, because I only had a chance to just peruse through it, there's probably some stuff that is covered, the warranty stuff, because they say it's fully warranted up until, and, you know, obviously there's limitations on that, and that goes to October 2027. So I'll put that and get it to everybody, or send everybody it. But I did find the one that was signed back in October 2022, before it was approved at the annual meeting of 2023, but they basically rented it short term. I know that was a whole cluster, you know what, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, I've got that. I've got a copy of that.
So we're gonna take a little more time to review
Read
that?
through it and see
Yeah.
what it says, yeah.
So things don't happen quickly.
No.
To give you an idea, I met with 3 New Hampshire Homeland Security Emergency Management people who are the intermediaries between FEMA and the state of New Hampshire. FEMA obligates money when they approve it to the state of New Hampshire. Then Homeland Security Emergency Management are the ones that actually write the checks to the municipalities. So there were 3 of them on the video conference yesterday, and I submitted my first spreadsheet for approval, and that spreadsheet was for about $27,000 for what happened in 2023, just for the 7 roads that had asphalt edges on it, if you can picture that.
Yep.
It's been a while since you looked at that paperwork with me.
Right, but
So-
no, I can picture the roads and what was done. And
The amount of money that FEMA had obligated to for that entire project was, I could bring it up, it's like $240,000.
wow.
What I submitted for reimbursement, which is the hours, man hours, the equipment hours, and all the materials that I could find invoices for, but not the actual asphalt on the edges of the road. That's rebuilding the
Right.
ditches and using 6-inch stone, 1.5-inch
Yep.
stone, 1.5-inch gravel, 3/4 gravel,
Yeah,
all those different materials. I separated out the New Hampshire DOT 304.5 stone and attributed that to the culverts.
yep,
So they were allotting like 240,000. I put in for 27,000.
right,
And all we have to do to finish that is put down their estimate of 29 cubic yards of asphalt. And I looked, last time we bought asphalt from Pike was last year, I think, to do,
yeah. I think
Kristen
we bought
entrance in a
ton or
couple
two here and
places.
there, yeah.
we were buying it for $84 a ton. Now we have to convert that to cubic yards, but it basically, the rule of thumb is you double it. It's either 1.4 or 2, depending upon what kind of asphalt you're buying. So if you're talking about $2 or $48 a cubic yard, $42 a cubic yard times 27. That's all we're gonna invoice them for asphalt.
Right,
plus what it costs to put it down. We had a brief discussion, three of us,
yeah,
about IDPW putting it down with the grader. I think we need to discuss that.
okay,
It may be that we don't wanna do it that way. They're projecting numbers that cost a lot more
right,
by almost 10 times so far. And I'm thinking, with everything we have to do, I'm gonna see if it makes more sense to have an asphalt contractor do that
Right.
part. Because
right,
there's plenty of ditching to do.
right, well, then they're gonna come in, they're gonna cut it out, you know, the spots that got damaged, and, you know, cut it to the, you know, the good parts, and then fill that in, they'll do that all, you know, a lot better, I think, and smoother than we would.
While we're doing something else.
Right, right, especially with just two of us,
I contacted the property owner on Aspen, on the east side of Aspen,
yeah,
about his empty undeveloped lot that he would like fill on. He was happy to hear that we contacted him. He'll be available to talk about it after the 19th,
okay,
which is fine because we're not moving anything because of the shoulders that you were talking about.
right,
So we do have a location, then we have to work out the logistics of how we bring that material onto his lot. It doesn't have a
Right.
driveway.
no, and it's steep, and it's, you know,
So maybe a discussion with at least three of us, talking to him
yeah,
about if we do a makeshift driveway and it gets deeper into the lot, so it's our benefit to move as much material onto that as we can
right.
and not more than he wants.
Well, that, you know, we don't wanna have a situation where we back a truck and dump a couple loads, now we gotta go up there and move the pile. Then we
Well,
gotta back
I was
up there and
thinking
move the
whether
pile.
part of the discussion is, we say to him, he's gotta have a contractor ready to move material on there, but whatever we figure out with him, we're gonna be doing it in other places all over the
Right.
place, because we're gonna have
Oh, we got material.
we're gonna have many,
You
many.
can just drive the roads and see the material in the ditch lines that need to be
And
pulled out.
if they look at the piles that you have
Right,
on burn, it's primo ditch material,
well, that's
but
the
that's
nice,
selected.
that's the nice material, yeah, we save the best stuff, like I say, for
Yeah, to use.
rain outs, washouts and things like that, that'll benefit us. You know, when we're doing a job with Ian and stuff like that, that we need good stuff to go back in a hole, and not silty, sloppy stuff, so, you know, they get what they get, but we try to keep the good stuff. But that's not to say that there's not other good stuff out there as well.
So just to remind you, when we get to the ditching and the widening of the road project that they call
Yeah,
it, right? They have estimated that that project is gonna cost $483,000.
yeah,
So, if it tracks against what I was able to submit for, now, for the one I just did, I subtracted at least 100 tons out of what I had invoices for
right,
the mysterious disappearance or the unaccountable material at that time.
yeah,
There's also a lot of hours that I didn't put in for.
right,
But that was nowhere near bringing it up to
right.
what their estimates were.
Something to- Yeah,
So it was very painful trying to find what information I did find to do the last one. And we're gonna have to keep track of things like we've never kept
Right.
track of before.
right,
So we're not off to a flying start this year.
no,
That's why I think it's even easier to keep track of what a contractor's doing than it is what we're doing.
right,
So we need to find that sweet spot between the two. And this was a good first taste for me to have my eyes open as to how painful this can be for me if we don't do it right.
right,
So
oh,
I'm motivated.
yeah. Yeah, no, I understand, and like I said, we'll keep track of what goes out, what comes in, and,
Where it goes,
where it goes.
how long it took.
Right,
The details were, I mean, it's down to the hour
oh, I know it,
back in 2000.
Wow.
Do you know what you were doing July 23rd for 4 hours of that day?
I I might have been on vacation. I'm on the boogie board now.
It was
That was the week before.
way before you were on vacation, I know.
Yeah, no,
Because the federal government didn't get charged for that.
right, yeah, no, that's a tough one to figure out. Like I said, I was probably pulling material and driving the truck and dumping it.
You guys, I know I mentioned it before, but that app we use, Jobber, they have like a pretty light version of it, and you might want to look into it, because like, he could have a day that has jobs in it, and he can, you know, like you can almost have like asset IDs for everything that he's working on, but you can have the jobs right in there and track it if that's what
If you could see the FEMA spreadsheets,
I bet it's insane.
you would want to put it directly into the FEMA spreadsheets, which is what I want to do.
Gotcha.
I don't want to have to translate it from
One to another
any
or
other
whatever.
application, or go searching through minutes to find out what happened.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Or look through the invoices, transfer that into one spreadsheet where I convert it from tonnage, which is the way we buy everything,
Yeah.
Right,
to cubic
yards.
yards,
Right.
including the per ton price, converting that into cubic yards.
Yeah.
And then put it into the FEMA sheet, match it up against the equipment, the hours that they were actually working. We have to submit all the time cards. They have pictures of all of your time cards
Right.
from July through October of
Wow.
2023.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have to sign affidavits saying that
It's correct.
I'm not violating federal law
Yeah.
and personally liable for
Right.
federal charges for
Yeah.
misrepresenting anything
That sounds fun.
in that environment of 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they took everything that was submitted prior to me in 2024, based on me telling them, this is what I'm told happened in 2023, and they threw it all away. I found that out yesterday.
What?
Yes, I kept asking them, what was submitted, because there were
Yeah.
public comments, statements, there were hearings that said the village spent 90 grand,
Right.
and I'm not coming up with 90 grand. Well, then they finally said to me, we took everything that was submitted prior to you starting into this and threw it all away, and we went in and estimated everything, which was why it took so long. And then we're asking you to actually submit the stuff under sworn affidavit,
Right.
and you're not coming anywhere near our estimates. So I was like,
How could you?
Yeah, wasn't done properly, that's for sure.
enough on that.
Yeah.
So you have the picture.
I get to.
Now you have the picture.
Yeah. I jumped in midstream.
Anything else, Russ?
I'm
Anything
good.
you have for
I'm all set.
Jeff?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, enjoy the day. See you later, Greg.
We won't see much of you next week then, huh?
Yeah, next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be out of town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And, I don't know about the Thursday,
Um,
Friday.
Before you leave, any chance you're gonna do anything with the swale before you leave?
I don't think that's, something that we're gonna get into today, tomorrow with the weather. So that's probably gonna be after that.
Okay?
I mean, we haven't discussed it at this point. I thought we were gonna have a meeting about that.
Yeah, that's what I said.
We did that. There was supposed to be a meeting, but Tony was on vacation, and now he's back, so I thought we were gonna set something up where the five of us were gonna have a little talk about it first.
Well, you did a drawing.
Yes, and that's when I thought after that there was gonna be a meeting with the five of us.
Just coincidentally, we went down to Bergdorf to look at the pipe project
Alright,
and walked the road for the pipe project with Nick, the engineer, Nick's
Yeah.
schedule. And we talked about, one of the ideas that was discussed was raising the road, because we're gonna have a lot of material, and if we're gonna do the pipe job, was there any benefit to raising the road at that time? And this is when, I think he brought it up as we're going under the culvert versus over the culvert.
right,
And then he looked at it and said, this is a beautiful natural swale because it's wide. And he didn't know that he was saying something to us that actually applied to our discussions of Grissom. If you see what I'm saying.
I don't follow.
We went from an 8-foot wide swale to a 5-foot wide swale, which is the opposite direction of what he's telling us that he likes about the way Bergdorf goes like this over the culvert. And then I pointed at to where, when it does overflow the road, it goes straight over the road, and there's all the material that you can see. It doesn't follow the way the pipe goes.
Right,
So, that made me think, what was the benefit of making it 5 feet? The swale in your drawing.
The fact that the material is only 12 feet. You got it, so you're going down 2-3 feet. So the material's gonna be down, laying on the flat in 2-3 feet, and it's gotta come up the sides, and it's gotta come over like this.
So 5 feet across the bottom, 2 feet at an angle, 3-to-1 pitch coming up the sides.
Yeah,
So that's 2 feet, 2.5 feet, 3 feet to give it extra. That's 6 feet there, 5 feet there. That's 11.
right. So now basically you get 6 inches on each side, or, you know what I mean, for material to sit on top of it. So that's where we came up with that figure.
The way I'm looking at it is that this idea was just trying to protect that pipe
Right.
from not only the expense in an emergency situation, because some of our contractors can be down in Barrington when we need them to be here to put the water system back together. I was trying to remember
Yeah, that's
Barrington.
what, yeah, listen, it's all over the place.
Right.
All over the place.
See, not only that, but the people not having water,
Right.
we try to avoid that if we can. So that was just to do a 50-50 chance of protecting the pipe
Right.
for $600 possibly in material, plus our machines, our fuel, our manpower. And then, as far as, from my perspective, winter maintenance, we don't have to protect that swale in the wintertime. The 2 storms that took that pipe out were in June and July.
Right.
Madison did have a very destructive storm that they called the Patriots Day storm several years ago, and that was in April, Patriots Day.
Yep.
And there was ice in the ground that contributed to focusing the water and doing maximum destruction. So it's not like I'm ruling out that this can't happen in the wintertime, but so far it's happened
Right.
in the summer months. So what I'm getting at is that for the material and the labor to get a swale in this summer, and then change it for winter operations, where you're not dealing with the swale being there and trying to change the way that you plow at the dead end, then we may be fixing that road, or we may reconstruct the swale again to buy us another year.
Right.
So just to make it like you're not trying to solve a permanent fix here by the installation of the swale.
Correct.
Otherwise, we'd put a permanent swale in.
Right.
So,
Okay, but does the explanation Jeff gave about how that drawing would pan out in reality, is that sufficiently wide enough? 'Cause I think you thought maybe it should be an 8-foot over on Grissom?
I guess what I'm saying now is, I feel that time is of the essence.
Okay,
And if I can get an 5-foot swale in
It'll
sooner
Yeah.
than having another meeting and talking about a redesign to make it wider to fit with the engineers saying wider's better, then I'll take the 5-foot now,
okay.
so that we're not dealing with the pipe being out and the water operator disappearing. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what we're agreeing to is the drawing as is, let's go with it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying I don't want to delay.
All right, artwork was good.
Artwork was good.
Yeah.
There's a place right against the wall in the library for it to hang.
I'll blow it up.
No,
We understood it fully.
it was legible, all right.
Yeah.
Yep,
That's all that matters.
yeah.
Got the main point.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So
what
I'm
we can
gonna
do.
make a motion that,
We move forward with that.
that the DPW put in a 5-foot swale as sketched
Second.
as soon as time allows, and before the next big storm.
Aye.
Any further discussion?
Aye.
What says aye? That's
Aye.
2-3-0 on that. No further discussions on the swale.
Okay, and no other meetings need to occur?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Now the ball's out of my court onto his. But I caught you. That would have been the second week I had you walk away without doing this.
How long do you anticipate it take you and Tony to do that? Put that straight?
I'd say a couple of days.
Yeah.
Did you buy the material already?
No. Well, all we need is the fabric, I believe, and then we should be all set. we have the stone and
Yeah.
things that, you know.
Okay, so assuming you won't be able to actually do the physical labor before you have to travel, yeah, if you could just get all the materials all staged, ready to go, that'd
Right.
be great, so when you
Yeah,
come back,
go get the fabric.
hit the deck running.
Yep, yep.
And then, if we make it through the summer, then we decide how you wanna set it up for even better snow
Right.
maintenance.
Yeah, we can figure that out.
And what we do next year, if we have to do it next year, can be a little different,
Right,
based on what we learn.
right.
And I think there's a 50-50 chance that this actually saves us.
Well, yeah,
You know,
right.
I'm not guaranteeing that.
Mother Nature will dictate what she does and we'll go from there.
If we get a real heavy storm, let's all run over there with our cameras and
Right.
see what's
We
going
know
on.
it's at least
Been there, done that.
$15,000 to fix it. It's 2 years ago, that I think the contract for the water operator to fix the pipe itself was $9,000. That's without materials going in the ground and redoing the road.
That was just to redo the pipe.
And FEMA has already reimbursed us for $7,200, but that's the only money we've gotten
Yeah.
since that storm.
I wasn't 9,000, that was excavation.
So that was with the putting the pipe back together, sand, and then that, you know, just making it safe, and then obviously we had to go through and put our material down and
Yeah.
get the road
I
back.
think they
together.
changed, I don't know, some portion of that pipe out to a couple hundred feet or so into
Right.
poly.
All set?
I'm all set.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
You got the floor?
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy the rain.
Yes.
That's all we get up here.
Yeah, I'll keep my feathers.
You go, buddy, thanks.
So at 9:37, we move to discussion of the water system. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning in.
Good morning. What'd you do to yourself?
I fell down.
I gotcha. Hopefully it's not too bad. Break or just a spray?
Bad sprain.
Okay.
Ian, could you scoot forward just a little bit?
I was trying to avoid it.
You can't avoid the camera. Thank you.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
I guess the most pressing issue is the Muddy Beach stuff. I mean, it's, I'm gonna-
Thank you for sending the data on the.
Yeah,
testing.
no problem. So as you saw, that kind of finished up around the 18th. Obviously, I mean, it showed well too being a lot worse than I realized it was. That one cut out. So the way we set this up was we had both well pumps, no restriction to them, so doing whatever their normal flow would be into the tank. And then we had the booster pump that we just manually operated at, you know, cut the hertz down, so we ran that at 40 gallons per minute. We were just trying to find at the current time what that, sorry, go ahead.
The pump.
Yes.
Can you manually control the speed of the pump?
So, yes. Now, this was part of the jankiness of this thing. If you look at our screen, it's all messed up. I don't know what's going on. That's something that as we kind of get through
The SCADA
SCADA
screen, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of a shot in the dark as we were playing because the numbers are showing up like %-XY9. You know, it's just this weird. Now, I think it's registering properly from the SCADA computer, but we can't. You have to manually change it at the building or at the VFD controls themselves, which is fine. I mean, honestly, you probably want to so that you know the conditions of the building as you're making those changes. I might have even told Tom.
Let me tell you why I asked.
Yep.
The DPW really likes being able to go to that output that you put on the outside of the building to
Yep.
fill their truck, particularly if it's on Eidelweiss Drive, which is.
Yeah, real ideal.
It would have been better for them to be able to get the pump to pump the water faster.
Okay.
And I said it's a VFD pump, but I don't know whether
So
they can change the speed that the pump puts out. Or
They
whether we can
can.
leave it in a state that's faster.
I had that manually set so that it was a continuous 40 gallon per minute flow, essentially dictating, you know, kind of emulating what we have for, at the time, the district's, you know, usage. In normal operation, I don't think we throttle it. We might down to like 85% just because that's a good place, but we could absolutely not for how little that's used. And if we, during the summer months when those guys are going to be using it. Granted, I think the max at wide open, well, against no head, I don't know, because at max flow against the head pressure, it's like 60 something gallons per minute. Against no head, so in other words, into a wide open tank, they might be able to quadruple that. So they might be doing 150, 200 gallons a minute out of it. So I think that'd be more than enough for what they're shooting for. So
So
long
could
story
you
short-
set it and leave it at the most efficient pumping when we're not using that well?
Certainly right now, yeah, I'll make it so that it's just sitting in auto, it's at
For them.
100%, yeah. So, I'll have to mess around with those numbers. I don't know, I'll sidebar this, just don't let me forget I want to talk about it with the SCADA, where we're at with that. But, so yeah, that was our goal. It was like, okay, what is, and that was a best case scenario situation. If we were using 60,000 gallons a day, which we rarely see here at this point, but if we were doing 55 to 60,000 gallons a day, how long could we go? And we would have been doing 57 and change, 57.4 a day off that setup. And I think it ended up going about 11 days was our total run before it went kaput. And for argument's sake, if we had done that, you know, if we matched this most recent checks usage, I think we were at like 78,000 gallons per day. It would have 150 gallons a minute for a couple, you know, for a while, but eventually you just overtake that production limit. So the less we ask of it, if I try to do this test at 30 gallons a minute, we may never run dry. If we do this test at 100 gallons, or let's say, you know, 55 gallons a minute to match current flow or something, we might have ran dry in 3 days. So it's all kind of relative to, I don't know the actual aquifer production rate. All I know is what we did. We could do this test in another, now it's all set up, it'd be really easy just to leave the thing running out. We went through some different periods of it to make sure we didn't burn stuff out, because we didn't trust the communications and stuff, so we got that running solely on itself at the station, kind of by itself, and made sure that all kind of shut down. So that's what ended up happening, is we tripped out on low well on pump 2, I don't know, day 2 or 3, and then we tripped out on well 1, day 10 or 11. Then the tank, once that just didn't have water producing, the booster pumps cut themselves out on low tank. So went great. I think I would be comfortable setting this up in different capacities if we wanted to find out more on it. You know, if we wanted to find out what happens at peak usage, do we get a day? Do we get 2 days? You know, so we could set that at. It would probably require both pumps running, which they are, but we could set that at, say, 90 gallons a minute going out to waste and see how that looks. So,
So you tested the wells individually?
so the 2 well pumps we're running at their normal capacity, because we don't really ever throttle the well pumps. They're not VFD, they're just on-off pumps.
So you're never running both well pumps at the same time?
As a rule, they do actually run together. So
But in your test, did you?
what's that?
In your test, did you run both
Yep.
wells at the same time?
Yeah, so, and we can set them to a lead lag, but historically Muddy Beach has always run as 2 pumps at the same time. The reason for that is they both produce, I don't know if you said an average of about 40 gallons per minute. It changes as the well depths drop. I think you could say between 40 and 50 gallons per minute. And during peak usage, when Muddy Beach was actually like kind of being used over Jungfrau times, you know, we might be using 95 or 100 gallons a minute. So that was in order to maintain tank level, so our pumps weren't always kicking out on a low tank level. So as a rule, historically they do run together, so that's how we ran them. Obviously we only got, again, a couple days out of well 2. But they ran together, so a production rate, so obviously the tank was just cycling, we kick up to 60 inches, go down to 50 or whatever we have it set at. And the whole time, the booster pump was just spilling water on the ground, 24 hours a day. So yeah, that was the setup. We sampled the water, obviously pretty close before we did the test. We saw the numbers that came out of that. Sampled the water after the test. Obviously uranium was dipped back down to, you know, 35 to 45% of the limit. I think we're somewhere around there. So you know, obviously back to more of the norm of what you guys had seen in the past. So you know, we can look at. Obviously, this is not a record of this. We have to see what happens in the future. And that was at drawdown. I think we gave, can't remember exactly right now, but 3 or 4 days of recovery on the well. I mean, we couldn't even kick the second well on for that period of time anyway. So we gave a period of time for it to recover, flush the wells slightly, you know, ran a couple, maybe another 1,000 gallons or something, and then tested it. So that's where that test comes from. Came back almost exactly what we used to see the numbers at. I mean, this isn't like this isn't off the, you know, this isn't better than we used to see. This is about par for the course of what the numbers ran for a long time. You know, we'd see uranium numbers at 10, 12, 6, 19, 7, you know, it's just, they were kind of a little bounce there, but it was always below 30. So, as you guys saw in that, we do have iron. I mean, you guys know that there's always been some very infrequent, you know, conversation about iron in the system. Obviously, this is probably where it comes from, primarily off well 2 is where we were seeing it. I don't think we see it in any other samples anywhere. And then the odd thing to me was I didn't realize how low that pH was at Muddy Beach. So, and again, that might seasonally change. This is historical, you know, if you're gonna have low pH, spring tends to be, you know, it tends to be a time that you're gonna see it, especially when there's a lot of rain and everything. So, might jump back right up to 7, 7.1, 7.2, but not below the limits, you know, just right hovering, you know, 5% above what we're looking for. So, I would say, obviously, all in all, great news back out of it. I think the length of what it ran for, I don't know that it changes a lot on our conversation about
Treatment,
what's that?
treatment,
Well, I think it does. I do. Well, that's a, you know, of course, that's going to be up to you guys, and I think, you know, future tests. I don't think this one gives us a. You can make every decision you make off this one test, but it's certainly it's heading in the right direction. And you know, depending on how you're intending to use Muddy Beach and what your comfort level is with your constituents and how you want to address it, obviously there's a lot of water specifically in this area that has, you know, that looks just like that. That's, you know, that meets all the criteria for the state, and there's no conversation about, you know, it being over or anything based off that sample. So for what you're looking at for costs and everything on that, I mean, if it were me, I would say, yeah, I'd put a hold on treatment. Personally, you guys are based off, maybe let's test it monthly or something and see if, you know, if the guys are gonna be using the water, or if we pick a time to flush, you know, let the thing flush out to waste during checks or something, just to keep water moving. Go ahead.
what are you hearing?
Just changing everything.
You're burying it. I
No,
need to hear what the,
I think we've kind of had a plan
Okay.
to put filtration equipment in place.
Yep.
But the second part of the plan was Muddy Beach was never ever going to be the primary source
No.
of water. It was going to be for emergency backup.
Yep.
Okay? And if in the future the uranium levels are really low, well, that's great. That means our future costs of disposing it will be way lower.
Yep.
But if the opposite happens and it shoots back up and we have to rely on that for emergency backup, we're covered. So we're trying to keep ourselves safe for the
And
future.
I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel on you guys. Of course, I take this as like a new, you know, I'm not obtuse to the amount of money we're spending here. So it's just, you know, you look at what we're seeing right now, and, you know, do you let that dictate? I guess it's in the mindset of, do we let the last, I don't know, 18 months or so dictate our decision making, or do we see where we're at? Muddy Beach has always essentially been a backup source, not a primary source, at least certainly in the last 10 years. You know, we've known for a good chunk of time that Muddy Beach cannot produce enough water to fulfill the needs of the district long term.
No, but as I understood it, it was often running while we were also getting water from DPW.
It was intended to run about 15% of the time, was always what we wanted out of DPW.
Yeah.
The problem is that, I mean, I'm sorry, at a Muddy Beach, problem is that the communications were so wonky
Sporadic.
that rarely happened. It would either not run at all or run 100% of the water or whatever, right? So, you know, I think the comms down there is definitely part of the communication. And without a doubt, you know, choosing to treat the uranium issue down there, you're not going in the wrong direction. If that spikes, you know, say I say let's wait and see, and it spikes back up in 3 months, and you go, oh well, you know, let's talk about treatment again. So I mean, if you want like the conversation where you're gonna set it, you're gonna get this thing done, you're gonna have the backup source that you can rely on, that you can feel comfortable, that there's no conversation with anybody about, hey, is the water safe to drink when we put this thing on, all of that, then yeah, the one way you get out of that without any question marks is to treat it. I think you're entirely correct. You can opt to, you know, what we call blend or bypass a portion of that media, so you're not sending 100% of the water through. That might give you 10 years of that media. It might give you 20 years of that media. I don't know. You know, I mean, it's like if we're only trying to remove 5 parts of that uranium, if we were at, again, I don't know, 10 to 15 parts between the wells, you know, you just...
well, so what I'm picturing is that when Muddy Beach is pumping into the system, it's pushing all the water out of the mains towards Jungfrau.
Towards
That's all Muddy Beach water.
It's
And all the
towards-
houses connected to the main that delivers the Muddy Beach water to the Jungfrau intersection, where Jungfrau now participates in getting it up to Rheinach, where it can mix.
Yep.
But everybody, including 33% of the Board of Commissioners, is drinking it straight, or doing whatever they do in that house with it.
From Muddy Beach.
Oh, I keep myself well hydrated.
You see what I'm saying?
You're glowing. No, it's
And
yeah.
we have some people that hear the word uranium, get these notifications, and they think that we have Seabrook inside that.
Right, and I totally understand that. I get where they're coming from, but yeah, I mean, if people understood the microparticles that we're testing this at, it helps paint that picture. But you know, and also just the fact of how New Hampshire in particular is a very conservative state when it comes to the numbers. They definitely err on the side of caution versus some people will push it a little harder. Almost everybody's over US EPA numbers, but we hover very closely to their numbers. So, but at the end of the day, like I said, again, it is a large expense, but it's something that it gives you the peace of mind long term. People that are being directly fed off in all of Eidelweiss Drive and Big Loop and places, because yeah, I mean essentially if that pump is running at 65 gallons a minute, it's probably overtaking the demand of the system, and so yes, water is heading unilaterally towards the tanks. Bar some real heavy usage or something, that is what's going on. So
Let me throw another one in. Okay, so in the discussions with Nick, he wanted us to get information from talking to other users, as did DES. And one of the questions that Nick would like data to answer is, if we installed an ion resin filtration system in Muddy Beach, and then treated it as a backup unit that we're only going to turn on if DPW 1 is down. DPW 1A is what we're calling it now to keep our own language straight.
okay,
And then the long-term plan is to have a DPW B and really reduce the need to have Muddy Beach, but never abandon Muddy Beach totally.
No.
Right.
Because it's
But
always
no.
going to be an asset.
Yep.
Then Nick's question is, how long is it known that the resin ion filtration system can sit unused without a negative effect on the treatment system itself?
That's a good question. Because I unfortunately I don't know the answer to that, because most of the time they are.
So he wanted us to find local recommendations on what brand name system, what system vendor we would use.
Yep.
And my brief research yesterday said that there may not really be a brand name on it. You're buying pieces and somebody's building the system.
That's essentially what it
You're
is.
buying tanks.
You're buying tanks,
And you're buying the resin system and you're...
and a control head if you need one. But otherwise, it's I think SBG2 would be the anion resin you'd be looking at, and that's going to be. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with what distributor you're dealing with. It's the same production of that media. I'll confirm that media type. We're literally betting one right now, so I'll send you a picture of what we're doing down there for media. But that is you are correct. So there's a number of vendors like semi-locally, Blake Equipment. We use Ari Prescott. There's I don't know whoever else, right? I mean some of the bigger guys like Webb and EJP, and they don't really do treatment. They might sell parts and pieces of it, but it's not their. They might even supply a tank or something, but I don't think they do. So anyway, you get a handful of guys that supply. They almost all use clack valves, which is like the actual mechanical valve head. I would have a hope that these would be upflow units so that you weren't even having to deal with, valves. But anyway, if you do, you'd have a clack valve. It's going to be some kind of a fiberglass blown tank, and then you're going to have that media in it. It's really, it is what it is.
The water engineer at DES,
Yep.
Unger, recommends to us that given a choice, we buy smaller vessels. And he's saying that you really don't want to handle dealing with cleaning the resins inside. You want to have somebody take the whole
Haul
vessel
off.
away
Yep,
for the
he's
cost
right.
of the vessel. And then one of the numbers I got is that the Davis Hill users, I think, were upset when a vendor,
Well, us.
no, not you, prematurely, I would say it wasn't you.
That's funny. Yeah, I know all about
Did you hear the
this.
story that
We just worked at Davis.
they prematurely disposed of a vessel
Well,
that
they
really
didn't dispose
didn't
of
need
it.
to be?
It's still sitting in the pump house, but yes, they took
Well,
it offline.
I was told that it cost them $21,000 to get rid of it.
They haven't got.
And they didn't need to get rid of it.
Problem. Well, it's still sitting there. It cost $21,000 to replace it. They didn't even dispose of their media yet. So
And the only place that gets disposed of is in Tennessee
we
by some company in New Jersey.
or Connecticut, I think, is where we get numbers from, and that's the guy that's like $3-4 grand to drive up here, 700 give or take per cubic foot of media. and then that depends on, they'll do a test on the media, depending on how saturated it is. They load it up, and I think it goes to a mountain in Tennessee. Yes, I think that's actually correct.
So when Nick wants us to talk to a vendor, to have them tell us how long the treatment system can sit idle before it's a problem. There is no treatment company that's going to answer that
The
question.
person that we would end up, what I would do if I got asked that, like if you guys want, I can track this down for you. I would just literally go to the media vendor. So I'd go to my supply house. I would tell them what I'm dealing with, see if they have a contact director, if they want to deal with it for me, and then track that down.
I kind of like talking to them directly. You know.
Ideally, it's just the problem is everybody's a little tight-lipped on things sometimes. So if I can get directly to a vendor, I will. There's a company I've dealt with. I'm trying to think of their name right now off the top of my head. I used to buy direct media because I didn't like exactly what you're talking about. I didn't like going to my distributors. So when I was doing large projects, I get super sacks, which is like whatever, essentially a cubic yard of media. We could probably go that route. For those people. It's been a few years since I talked to them, but I could try to go back to them and see if we could get a direct to vendor communication going. I literally can't think of their name right now. If you guys want it, I'll just put it in your hands. But it's
What are
makes
the
no difference to
chances
me.
that a capitalist would answer that you have to change that stuff out really often?
Yeah,
You know.
I mean
Yeah,
most
right.
people, are if we're sensitive about anything, it is about that media for the most part. I mean, you got some guys that just see a little blip and they'll change it out and you're moving on. I don't like dealing with it. It's like one of those things. It's like it's hard to come to a board and go, hey, I'm looking at 41,000 to replace this media. So it's I think that lifespan wise, you typically see when usages, you'd be talking about 10, 15,000 maximum out of that station a day, or on average anyway, like an average maximum. When you're actually, I guess if you were full using it, but anyway, that's not a huge treatment system. It's not, like you probably have 6 small vessels in a row or something, little 2, 3, 4 cubic foot units. So
And they're like 18 inches wide.
somewhere around, what you would do is just exactly, you're trying to keep them manageable. So whenever you got to get rid of them, they can still fit out the doorway. You're not literally sucking the meat out, because that's going to just drive your cost up.
So we
again.
can use some of your old scuba tanks.
There you go. That's what everybody says when they ask. I got some like scuba tank looking things in our
Wow.
basement.
And then it was recommended you could install a system in everybody's house for
You don't want to go that route.
for $6,000.
Yeah.
And they can bring it to the transfer station.
They can, yes.
Really?
We can't. Then I was talking to some
so
local
don't get me
boys.
started on it.
The discussions that happen over the rear end of a pickup truck in between C and deer tell you to get rid of it and don't worry about the regulations.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
So it's like, we can haul, I guess I'll give you the state's answer to this, which is, when you're removing water from the community, you can't discharge said water back to like an individual leach field or something, right? So in your case, we could never consider, if you had like a community septic, you could discharge, you could actually wash your uranium out and just send it out to your leach field. Again, mind blowing to me, but you could. But yeah, they look at residential applications. We deal with it on everything, that we can haul off residential only treatment, but we can't haul off commercial or community treatment. You have to have it properly disposed of. But if I put it in 10 houses, I could bring all 10 houses to the dump. If I was only treating for 10 houses, I couldn't. So that's out of one. If I was doing the 10 houses out of one location, that needs to be treated differently than if I put 10 of them in and hauled all 10 at the same time. You could have more media, more saturation, but it doesn't matter. So it's just the rules we live by with DES. So you have to, which I'm sure they're governed by something as well, EPA or who knows what, that is what they've come up with, to have some control over I think that's a big part of it is control, and they have a lack of control over residential properties, whereas they do have control over PWS listed systems like yours.
Yeah.
So when they can, I think they do what they can. And if they had their druthers, they probably wouldn't let any of that happen, but it's a very, almost virtually impossible thing to do. So yeah, we would be at the, that's what you would look like. I think, with the tests that we have, we could submit those too, and people could give you maybe a bed life, give you some idea of how many, how long they think that would last. Can help dictate how, in what capacities you use it or don't use it. But as far as I unfortunately don't have an answer or a thought on how long it would go without, I don't know that, so the issue that I think we would have is like the iron going through the system and then sitting, because that tends to plate around. All these things are like little ceramic beads, charged to grab up the metals, and ion is grabbing like the uraniums, and like your ion resins grabbing things like metals, hardness, iron, manganese. So what happens is when like an actual aesthetic problem, like an iron coats it, it coats it, and then it sits there. And if you don't wash that bead eventually just becomes obsolete. It doesn't work anymore. So honestly, the first thing that triggered up on me is if we're trying to do like you might even have to put in like an anion, a ion system ahead of the.
Filter the iron out before it gets to the uranium filters.
Yep. So
It sounds to me if you just cycle this periodically, and I don't know what the correct periodicity is, but let's say it's, I don't know, once a month or once a week for X amount of hours.
Yes.
I mean,
I would tend to agree with you, because I mean I think any movement on it, as long as it's not going months. But if somebody might say it doesn't matter, you can let it sit for 5 years. It's just sitting there. It's in solution. It's fine. I don't know. So I think getting the answer. But yeah, I think we could obviously have it set up so you just like we were doing on this, when you go to do checks, flip a switch, let it run for 45 minutes. Once or tre's a week. You'd say, hey, every Tuesday on checks, we'll flush it, hit it first, stop it when we're done, move on.
The highway department can do it
The highway
when
department.
they're filling their truck.
Exactly, and
Two birds with one brick.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's a good shot. So I think that we'd have to get into the specifics of how that got maintained and everything else. I mean, at a minimum, they would probably have like a manually backwashing head, something that wouldn't, because even just doing that, like where it doesn't, you can backwash these things as long as you're not actually trying to strip the uranium, which it would require salt to strip uranium. So, but you can backwash for
Bleach?
what's that?
They use bleach? One of my conversations, I was being told that they use salt or they bleach it.
Well, I mean, they might be able to break, because you got NaCl and the salt and chlorine. Maybe there's some connection there, but bleach actually destroys the resin, so it would have to be broken.
Maybe not. Huh?
Yeah, it would have to be broken down or something, and
Okay.
be just chloride. But I honestly don't know. I've never heard that, so I'd have to look into it. But historically we always use, or what we do, and almost everyone I've talked to, I always use
Salt.
So you can backwash brine free, just to push sediment or whatever, right? So you just put in a leaching pipe out back and have like a little stone and pipe system that you use as a backwash system, but knowing that you're not actually backwashing your uranium. You're not going to strip uranium off, it's stuck. So you would actually have to do that, and then, I don't know, I mean, maybe that would be enough to not worry about the iron stuff, because the anion resin is not going to actually want to attract the iron. The iron's going to want to kind of pass by it. It's not charged to grab the iron, it's only charged to grab the uranium. So, in all honesty, I think the thing to do would probably be put in like a tester unit and let it flow through it, and give it a little bit of time. Or it depends on how economical we want to try to treat this thing. If you wanted, like if you put this in the hands of these state projects we're doing, and you said, hey, give us a system for this, it would become, ridiculous. It would become this overthought, over-engineered, kind of mess. And we can keep it, I think, because you guys aren't under any administrative gun, so to say. This is a choice. So I think anything you're doing, if you can keep in that realm, you can control a lot of what you're doing versus getting to a point that it's being dictated to you. So when I talk about doing like a pilot setup or something, do you need to do that? No, but we could do that and find out just how, we could do that on our own terms and not go through just the paperwork of, and I'm not trying to use Nick here, I'm not trying to take anything from him, but like if he were to, it ends up just as a paperwork trail of this is, the theoretical lifespan of this is this, and you can take this much this, and then you build everything based off those things with safety mechanisms built into it so that it'll do exactly what you're thinking, probably times 5, right? And all we really needed to do is if what we're thinking of this thing, and I think we're all on the same page, is a backup source or a very intermediately run source once in a while just to keep it moving. And we don't really need to overthink it. I think we can try to keep it as compressed as possible. So doing something as simple as like a pilot run off it, I think we could get a lot of a lot of information to see if like that, if we put in a little 1.5 cube unit, let some water flow through it, split the water when it's run out to waste it, we're taking 5 gallons a minute or something through that. See what the capacity of it does.
Let me try this again. So what would you say to Nick right at this point, based on today's discussion?
I think I'm hearing that in addition to a uranium filtration part of the equipment, we need an iron filtration, which would be upstream of the uranium filtration. Because
Right, but what about timing on when we do anything? Right now, we had it as a priority, get this thing in place, should DPWA drop out, we actually had to use this.
Right.
We could assure the public that we're we're sending water that's below the,
well, I'm thinking over the past 4 quarters, it exceeded the uranium limit 3 times, okay? Not including your tests.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's great that happened, but if I was gonna bet money, I'm gonna say it's still gonna exceed the limits in the future. All right, but maybe because the fact that the most recent tests say no, we have more time to think this out. Really get a better plan in place as to the equipment, what we really need, how we're gonna run it, what we're gonna do, all that. And what I'm really saying is that, if in the unlikely event that in that interim time, DPW1 pump should go down, we know we can still use Muddy Beach, no matter what.
the state made it clear that we could use Muddy Beach just
As
as it
is.
is.
Yes, you can.
If DPWA went down.
Right.
You guys are making a choice, which I think is
It's a public
commendable.
relations thing.
But it's, you're making a choice that you had water that while the state wasn't telling you that source was, quote, you know what you have to do. You gotta send out a notice that says, take a look at this, you've got, uranium in your drinking water, and you're giving, you guys are actively trying to avoid that by and be able to tell people what you're doing. But yeah, at the end of the day, DPW goes down today, I'm turning on Muddy Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Does this change anything that's in the letter that's going out on the back of the announcement form?
Not really, because we basically said that we don't know exactly when this equipment is gonna be in, but we're hoping, we didn't promise, we're hoping it'll be in 2026. So that still gives us a year and a half. to get
So the
this stuff
expectations are that we're not gonna have the system in by the end of August of this year.
installed. No, we said nothing in the letter that it was going
Very
in
good.
in the summer.
And that letter is released, is that?
Well, that was gonna be my commissioner's report, but I'll say it right now, it's being mailed out today.
Good.
So, great, I mean, you guys are giving yourselves some leeway, that's an excellent choice. So you've got, 18
Sometimes we
months.
fall into
Yeah,
it.
listen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because again, this test was at drawdown. I essentially sucked the aquifer dry of what we can reach with our straws, and then on the refill, this is what it looks like. If I went out and I flushed out at 20 gallons per minute, or even say we were trying to mimic, so say I tried to average 15,000 gallons a day is what Muddy Beach when it's running normally what we do, and just let that go for 2 weeks and then test it. What does that look like? Like the aquifer normal operating procedure, not forced dry or been sitting for, because that was, we've had it now forced all the way down or sitting for the better part of months before testing. We don't really have a test on normal usage out of it. So I think, again, for what it takes to set that thing up and flush it to waste, that could give us another piece of the pie. You keep doing your testing, we see what we got. But, for your peace of mind, again, while I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you which way to go on this, but yeah, it's two different perspectives. Do we need to do it? Technically, no, we're not right now. Do you want to do it so if you turn it on, you're not sending out those notifications and telling everybody what you're doing, and that we just have a faith in a secondary drinking water source and that we never have to think about it again? Or not never, but we don't think about it again. It's certainly getting addressed for the foreseeable future. Is it worth the money? That's, I guess, where you
Here's
guys
a
are.
question, you do it see if this is a good question. Would you spend $20,000 to not have to send another notification out in August? $20,000, one more notification.
One notification only costs.
I knocked it down to 20,000 to
Yeah,
make
so-
it real interesting.
The notification we know is $500.
It's gonna be a little more this time because it's double-sided.
But for people's peace of mind and knowing that we're sending the best quality water we can, I think we should be moving forward with getting the uranium filtration in.
Because
On the
eventually we're
sooner
gonna spend
side-
20,000
on the
anyway.
sooner side
that was
that
a
we
good way to
can.
put it, 'cause
And if we're not pulling that much uranium, then it'll make it longer before we have to dump it, which will make it cheaper moving forward.
Yeah.
So I still think that we should be moving
I
forward
agree.
with
It would take less than
getting this
5
stuff
years
done.
to eat up 20,000 on notifications if it pops over 30 every
Wow,
single
huh?
quarter. And
There's some
I
calculus, huh?
kind of think,
That's true.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're literally blowing money on and I'd be
So,
amazed if you guys are only actually spending.
at some
500.
point, we're gonna know how much it costs to install the equipment, and that becomes a sunk cost. It's done.
So-
We've got it in. The real question going forward is, how much is that freaking uranium disposal gonna be when that happens? Well, I would venture, let's do what Jeff Bezos backed out of doing.
Shoot into space.
is we still keep whatever the proper water charge is, but maybe we have a surcharge saying, you have a surcharge this year because we had a uranium disposal thing this year. That's just my suggestion, something for the future.
Can I
Hopefully-
ask a
hopefully not in the
question?
future.
Sure.
Why can we not run Money Beach now, normal?
We can.
We can,
Okay.
Why don't we?
because we're been hitting uranium at higher concentrations than is safe.
The public's very happy hearing that we haven't run that system since
Okay,
November 26th.
Okay, all
It's a
right.
PR
So
thing.
even based on the recent testing,
So what you
Yeah,
do
that
with-
was a specific testing,
But
like you
can't
said, that,
guarantee that
That it's gonna
tomorrow the
last.
reading doesn't
Right.
go off the charts
Yeah,
again.
Right.
it could
Right.
shoot up again.
And what we drew is what we call non-compliant. It's the exact same samples, the exact same
Yeah.
technique used and everything, but this isn't even being documented. This is a non-compliant
correct.
sample we drew. So
The
it's
state
outside of-
doesn't have a record
The
of
state
this.
doesn't have a record of it.
You're right.
And even if
Yeah.
we came back at 10 parts per million, it would be, you run an actual running annual average. So it's an average. You either have to notify based off a spike over it and
Yeah.
or a continued, even if your criteria, we could
Yeah.
have a test at 10, your RAA is still over.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Correct.
right,
so anyway.
right, we were way high.
This is not,
Two
they
in
do
a
that
row.
all by design. It's not a
And
short
we have
term.
told the public that if we do turn Money Beach on, for whatever reason, we'll notify them.
Yes.
Yes.
There's an expense to do that.
Right.
All these moving pieces.
Yep.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a. I mean, it's a good. It is a good way to look at it. That if say this spikes up again, it's at 27 or 35 parts next time we sample.
Yeah.
You're right back to the same.
Just
spot.
enough to annoy us.
Just enough to annoy you.
And
Yeah.
it went very high this past test compared to the prior two tests that
Right.
exceeded, so.
And it's,
It's gonna happen again.
For a-
It will happen. Who knows what's
Yeah.
going on in that well, but there's a trend going on here. I'm
Yeah.
convinced of it.
for a large amount of years, we've danced
Mm.
at the
100%.
level,
Yeah,
For like as long as I know back.
Right.
It's been
you
within
know?
10.
So since we know that we've been right at that level, let's just be safe.
yeah.
That's
Most
what
of the
this
time.
is for, you know?
I mean, it could be 31% versus whatever, the UGL, whatever, it
Yeah.
be 31. We're gonna have to send out that notice no matter what, even though it's only one over
True.
Correct.
the limit.
Okay,
Yeah.
time for a little focus. What's the next step?
I think the next step is the board should talk to a couple of people in the area that have these systems and get their experience and any information that we can get from them. And then,
And we're waiting on Nick was gonna put together a high-level design, right?
Well, he's waiting for us to come back to him with information that we got
Okay.
by talking to the.
So
Right.
those are the.
So yesterday I called both people. The two names I got were Bill Cleveland,
Mhm.
who I now know doesn't have direct ownership or direct management of the Davis Hill, but has a lot of knowledge of it.
Yes.
He's personally interested in this stuff and has been for quite a while.
Hmm.
He was actually familiar with Eidelweiss because he worked on Eidelweiss systems with you, I think.
Well, oddly, I brought Bill. He helped on the on emergency. Bill's a friend of mine, so he helped once upon a time. He came and he's done an excavation job or two here with us as a laborer, so yeah, he's aware. But he's the president of Davis Hill. He is the one. He wants to see graphs. I mean, he's one of those brains. So he logged everything. He's got his history on the uranium, when they took it out, the little blip that forced the takeout. I mean, this is why we ended up going over and working with him on some stuff over there. But
He personally believes that this whole uranium thing is overplayed by the state of New Hampshire.
yeah,
And wouldn't do anything the way that everybody has to do it.
right.
Um,
That's a pretty common feeling. Like I said, we in New Hampshire, we're extremely conservative with our numbers. We keep them very tight to
So I talked to him.
safety standards.
I talked to
that's
him, he
okay.
wanted me to send him an email so he could send me a lot of the documentation that he has back. So he was a flood of information. I didn't catch that he really was inclined to have us come and visit the system. We weren't gonna see much, it was what he wanted to send me. The other name that the state gave me was David Cahill of Rockhouse Mountain.
Yep.
I was trying to think if I ever met him. Do you happen to know if David Cahill is an Army veteran? That would be my only clue if I had met him.
Having met him, would not be surprised, but I'm not 100% sure.
So I left a message to have him call me back, and he would be the more convenient one for the three of us
Right.
to actually go and physically look at the system. But I started to gather what it looked like by talking to Bill. He gave me a lot of information over the phone, so I was imagining, based on what he was saying, what it looked like.
Flood of information is a good way to put it.
Yes, it's a fire hose when he's talking to you. And it matched basically your description of it with you actually naming the pieces of buying and so forth. So I started to gather we weren't going to get an answer the way Nick wanted us to
I
get it by
see.
talking to any of these people.
No, it's
So that's the next step. Is Nick is waiting for us to come up with this answer where we learned you're not going to get that answer unless we call R.J. Prescott, not to be confused with E.J. Prescott.
yeah.
Right.
It's every one of these scenarios is slightly different when you're looking at both systems you just talked about. I believe are both upflow units. Actually, Bill's I think are running as downflow, but that's I've never seen them run like that. That's the way they chose to do it. So anyway, we reinstalled as it was, but most of the time these are going to be installed as upflow and or some backwashing control head, non-brining backflow. But these things all depend on other water qualities. The one we took is a very basic one. It was a mineral sample plus uranium.
Right.
For someone to spec that equipment, they're going to want more information. The well flows, which we can give you guys. Because what it comes down to is what demand do we actually. And I would say for Nick's purposes and for our purposes, the way we're intending to use this system, we probably want to only include one well running at a time, alternating, so that would greatly reduce, instead of having to try to treat 80 gallons per minute, we're treating 40 or 50 gallons per minute.
So if the next step isn't talking to the local uranium filtration owners, is what we got out of my conversation yesterday and what Ian is saying today. I think Ian is saying the next step is for him to do more testing.
I think we could get more information for you guys. I think with what you have now in a normal circumstance, part of it is the decision. If you're at least somewhat opting forward on this, I think the next thing to do is find out some cost variable on this and what you're actually looking at. So have a company like R.E. Prescott build it out based off X amount gallons per minute. And
Of
tell
what we
us.
know now?
I think you have enough. We will want like another. I'll find out from them what more they need for sampling, or if they even do. They might need some silicon count or something we don't have in there. But we'll find out what it is, and at that point they should be able to give me a pretty good idea on, what the size of the equipment is, cost of the equipment, and then the bed life volume for the equipment.
these guys deliver turnkey systems?
No, they have to get installed. So there's installers like us, and there's a number of others in the valley that do
But the
this.
system is complete, then the installer puts it in. It's not like we're going to several different vendors for multiple different.
No, they do that. Yeah, they do that. Now, granted, you guys can. We could buy tanks and heads and buy media separately, but
They're buying all the pieces from other vendors.
putting it together. So yeah, for all intents and purposes, they'll send you. It's all broken down. You got to
Okay.
stack it in place, but
They're an integrator.
Integrated.
I remember
that was the term I was looking for.
When
yes.
Eidelweiss was gonna have a skid,
they would have probably given us a number on
pump
something like
skid,
that. Yeah.
they were gonna quote us that. And I'll tell you the story of how.
Well, they're not the best for that stuff, but they are actually they're great for filtration. That's like their that and panels that and SCADA control panels are what they really
So the next step is you're gonna call RE
You got it.
and ask them what they need to quote.
I think off the information I have, I'll find out if they need a little more. If you guys give me a $500 budget for sampling or something, I think that'll cover it. If I do need anything more for them, and then I'll pull a sample if they need it. If they don't, we'll let them move ahead with what they got. And
So you wanna vote on $500?
it's up to you guys. I
Make
mean,
a
it's-
motion that we approve a budget of $500 for additional testing on Muddy Beach.
Second.
All right.
Okay. I don't know if I need it or not.
Well, let me get back to the integrator thing. I mean,
Resolve.
at least in my experience with other manufacturers or integrators,
Got it?
No.
not manufacturers, integrators, companies,
I don't know
They always
what
have
company you're
yeah.
talking about.
an engineering
Just
division.
allowing him to
You do.
spend $500 on testing.
That's who we'll send this to.
Testing for what company?
Okay,
RE
but then
Prescott.
Thank you.
we're also having Nick take a look at it. What I'm trying to differentiate between.
Not like that. He's not going to be. Your engineer is looking at your site, your building, your system as a whole. Their engineering department is looking at filtration equipment in a very, very narrow mindset. What are your numbers? What is this? What are we trying to remove? What kind of media are we going to use to do it? What, whatever. They're not. Your engineer is working for you as a system. Their engineering team is equipment builders. They're not, two different parts
Yeah,
of
but
the
they
equation.
also have to take into account our unique needs.
Well, that's
And
what
our unique particular, the wells and
that's what we feed back to them. So I'll give them
Okay.
back what we have for reports on them. I mean, these are the kind of decisions you guys, we can have them spec equipment at, like, what if we wanted 100 gallons per minute with both wells running? What do we need for equipment? What if we did one well? What if we only do well one because we don't want well two going through it and getting its iron in it or whatever? We can start to look at some different equations that might exist, and then we just get you have costs associated with those things, because honestly, at the end of the day, without a cost, it's hard to make the final
Right.
decision. So
Yeah.
this is like step one. Hey, what is the real? We've been throwing around 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand. Who knows what it's actually going to be? So this will give us like a step towards, okay, if I were to come in and install this equipment, this is what we're looking at. And then a full, we can get equipment costs, we can get installation costs. I can give you a full bucket of what we're looking at, and then. From there, you say, okay, well, can we hone this down? Can we go, what, that actually looks great. What if we did the whole system like this? Whatever. But what I'll tell you is whatever equipment comes through, it's going to be an anion exchange resin, whether it's a backwashing or non-backwashing, whatever. Those are those parts of the equation. How much, like, we all want small vessels, but honestly, at a point in time, I mean, we got enough room in there. We can even stack two deep and stagger them back and forth, because small vessels are the want. But your surface area on a small vessel, I mean, you go up from a 18-inch vessel to a 24-inch vessel, you're doubling your surface area. So, as you stagger these things back and forth with small ones, you end up taking up way more real estate than. So this is all stuff that we can give them that they'll take into consideration, but not the the total footprint we have to work with, what kind of space I tell them I have to fit it in, the other water conditions. So that's, like I said, at this point we're just going to get some preliminary numbers and some idea on what does this look like. Is it whatever? So can we get away with using the size vessels we want, or do we have to go up to Is it a point you go, okay, well, screw it, if we get you small ones, and we're going to use 3-foot vessels and do 3 of them, and now your cost goes way down on vessels. So
I think we should start looking at Muddy Beach 2 as the backup to Muddy Beach 1. And if we made it, what he was just pointing out a second ago at lightning speed was Muddy Beach 2 is more likely to clog the uranium system with iron.
Right?
And Muddy Beach 2 might be the only reason we have to buy an additional treatment system to get the iron out of it, so it doesn't bring down the uranium filtration system. That if Muddy Beach 1 was the one we were configuring everything for, that can deliver for 3 days in the worst case situation, we wouldn't want to turn or even have an iron filtration system just for Muddy Beach 2.
So wait, you're saying, I never remember which number is the deeper well.
One.
Is that the one with the more iron? Or is
No.
Nope, that's the better well.
that's the better well?
Yeah, Muddy
That's
Beach
what I'm
is
saying. Muddy Beach 2 is shallow, runs out of water, and contributes iron into the Muddy Beach pump house, where Muddy Beach 1 delivers more water, isn't contributing iron, and is the one we're really relying on to back up DPWA when
Interesting.
that's needed.
Okay.
Yeah, Muddy Beach 2 does very little for us, I'm going to be honest with you.
It's expensive and little.
It's expensive and little and got bad water quality. So if it had no uranium, well, great. Then you blend that with the other, but it does. Unfortunately, those two aquifers are kind of tied together. So what happens is whatever one's taking, it almost doesn't matter. One would run for, instead of running for 11 days, probably would run for 13 or 14 if 2 wasn't pulling 2. All it does is it took that top end of the aquifer, then it was just 1, because they are actually, if I ran nothing but well 1, well 2 would run dry. So it's like
Right.
it's just sitting
Yeah, we
there
tasted-
as something that for 2 days you could double up your production out of. I could pull 100 gallons a minute. As soon as those 2 days are up, now I can only pull 50 gallons a minute. So
So
it's
the
like
right way to think about it is we should start treating Muddy Beach 2 as a backup.
I would 100% agree with that. That we really probably should only consider any of this for well 2.
That was
for
the
well
price
1.
of admission
Wow.
today, right there.
That's there you go. So, okay. So if you guys have any thoughts or anything, just email me. I'll change it up, but I'll my move forward here is going to ask them. I'll send them both wells. We'll say I'm only looking for well 1 for now. Can you give me? Because I mean, honestly, the 2 wells are from the capacity. Like they do produce about the same amount of water. They do have the same amount of uranium. The only difference is that
You said one was cleaner.
iron. What's that? Yeah.
Cleaner.
Well, 2 has the iron in it. So
That's nice.
for all intents and purposes, you'd essentially, if they spec for well 1, you'd have to, all we'd be doing is adding more for well 2. The other thing that I didn't mention on this is we are gonna have to do pH treatment over there to post equipment, because the anion exchange will dip it's already at like 6.6, it's probably gonna go down to like 5 when we're done. So we'll have a similar chem setup to what you have at DPW. Probably get away with, I don't know, maybe you don't need a big, I don't think we gotta go with the hydroxide ideally, you'd probably just treat it in a way that you could use soda ash, or a lot of times we're using, the one we're on right now, we're actually using inline vessels, more inline upflow vessels to treat the pH. So their maintenance is you gotta go and refill them every, twice a year or something with that, depending on how much water you use, but in the grand scheme, it's a lot more cost productive. So anyway, they'll give us numbers on that as well. It'll be a full, we'll take everything into account, A to Z, on what it would take to treat that water. So yeah, I'll give me a week or 2 to get that, because they'll have to look it over, and we'll see if they need anything else, and but if it's 2 weeks, if they
Okay,
need
so
to.
in layman's term, if I'm hearing, if we're treating just well 1, we don't need to worry about the iron. We're now just looking at pH treatment and uranium treatment only.
Yep.
Okay.
And pH treatment in the grand scheme of things is there's no replacement vessels. It's just refilling media or adding bags of
Right.
media. You guys know what you're looking at on that. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's a controllable cost. It's not something that's like asinine long term. So, but yeah, so we'll get a package put together from them and give you an idea of what we're looking at and go from there.
Very good.
Cool. As we go, get bleeders off. I assume you guys are gonna want gardens on and stuff here coming up. You guys want us to turn those on? We usually do it with flushing, but
Entrance gardens, hoses to
Mm-hmm.
water stuff.
When will you be doing the flushing?
I haven't scheduled it yet, but it's gonna look like about 2 weeks out. We're gonna be in here for the excavation projects, which I'll let you know when we're getting into the road. Those little dinky dunk fixing curb valves, stuff like that. So we got about 3 days planned in about 2 weeks. I just don't know the exact dates yet.
Aspen Bergdorf.
Did you guys see the card? I think you left them in the mailbox. You see those?
So what's really going on there?
It's fed from the back.
They
It's
ran a
fed-
service line, a 1-inch pipe out to the bleeder? Is that what that's saying?
Oh,
Or not known yet?
I don't think, all we know is that his curb was found in the backyard. It's being fed, assumably off Aspen, not off from Bergdorf. So,
I was afraid of that.
yeah.
So what we were gonna do is say, when we talked to Nick about putting the 4-inch water main to close the dead ends on
Yeah.
number 2 to number 5, that was wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were going to propose that when you bring your machine out to do the isolation valves on Grissom, that you,
Oh, yeah,
on
yeah.
either side of the
Yeah.
culvert, that you also put in isolation valves and adapters on Bergdorf, so that when, and we understand you don't want to put the water main in,
It's just.
that's going to require drilling on each side of the culvert to get a machine down and do horizontal drilling.
That's what they're gonna
to
do.
get
Yeah,
the
we're gonna do
pipe.
directional.
That's actually a great idea.
That's
Yeah.
Nick's idea. That's paying for the engineer.
That's it. That's paid for the engineer. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. That's actually a good. That has a very. I mean, as long as you don't run into rock, which I don't think you really will over there.
If you run into rock, it will be the rock that they put in
yeah,
to get the
unfortunately,
culvert
right?
installed, which is 1.5.
Yeah, I'm sure he told you that the problem with directional horizontal boring is rocks. I mean, you hit a basketball-sized rock,
Right.
that thing, bang, it's done. You know, you're gonna pull back and try again. So hopefully that works.
I think they bring another machine in to go through the rock.
I think.
Oh,
If they
okay.
need to,
Maybe
yes.
for the larger scale stuff, they can
Wow.
go right through
Yep.
it. Cool. It's not something I have a ton of experience with, so I'm not by no means by an authority on horizontal boring. I've used it a handful of times crossing like Route 16 and stuff, and it always amazes me. That's really cool. Yeah, no, that's just, I think that's over the scope of what we can rent equipment and do it, and but it's like, I think we're better left maybe working with the contractors on that as kind of helping operate the system. But as far as getting prepped on either side, I would assume we could be more effective on that, cost-wise. So what you'd be looking at on Aspen now is probably actually tying in, so you guys know that Aspen bleeder that
So
you
we're
see?
believing the water main comes down Aspen to get to where it connects to this house somehow?
That's what
It
we're going
definitely
to
doesn't
assume.
come the other way from Gretchen. The map, the $40,000 map didn't show anything on Bergdorf at all.
Right. So I don't know exactly. I'll actually maybe pull up his card that he made. But my guy Noah came in here, and you guys don't know. He came in and found that stuff. So loved it. Had a blast doing it. So whatever, each your own. But so yeah, that water comes through the Jungfrau PRV. So it comes down, it feeds a little bit up towards Upper Aspen, then it feeds down, and it feeds to that gate valve cluster you see in the pavement that feeds down Grissom and everything right there, and it dead ends, assumably at that, I've always assumed it dead ends at that bleeder. That's what we have mapping, and that would make sense. Usually where you see blow-offs and bleeders are dead ends in the main.
That's 2-inch pipe, you think?
Yes, that's gonna be 2-inch pipe. So what we'd be looking at in order to create prep for dead ends there is a 3-valve cluster at Aspen, jumping onto there, and then a single valve on Bergdorf,
At number 5.
upscaled to around number 5, jumped up to from a 2 to 4 inch connection. So absolutely doable, not crazy. I mean, you'd be a day on that. You'd be a day on the 3-valve cluster. You'd be half a day, 2/3 of a day on the other one.
And the $40,000 map says that it's a 4-inch main coming down Bergdorf by Burke to get to the habitat. It's
No,
really
it's
2?
2 inch. That's 2
That's
inch.
what Nancy knew.
Yeah, that's definitely 2
Alright,
inch.
so does it run past the driveway before it dead ends? Or
I
does it-
don't believe so. I think it comes to the driveway. So this is all part of trying to figure out a uniform discussion on this stuff. But so I'm 90% sure that where you find the the curb valves we put on that card, there's going to be I don't know if you listed both of them, but there's 2. There's one for the house, and then there's one for a blow off, and it kind of just comes into that, and it's like a continuous. It kind of floops up onto the hill and blows off up there. So I believe it's all before the driveway.
Do you want to put in a 3-valve cluster on Aspen and Bergdorf in a 4-inch adapter so that when the contractor comes in to run the 4-inch main down Bergdorf,
Yeah,
that he's running to another
he's got 2 open valves to
4-inch
go to.
adapter in a shut-off isolation valve, so that
Yeah, that's right in our scope. And I mean, honestly, if we have small water main that's not going to be going down and getting into all that stuff, we're going to do a section of 200 feet from valve to valve on big loop or something. That's all fine. It's getting into the real big, going under giant culverts and.
Yeah.
otherwise you probably would have done this job on Bergdorf.
Yeah, we're happy to do small.
But we need a bigger machine to dig this 10-foot hole on either side of the
Right, which
culvert.
again we could rent, but it's just not it's not what I work with guys on that.
I get it.
I would hire that in. I wouldn't typically get myself mired into that. So.
So we want to do that pretty soon.
Okay, yeah, so we're looking, I mean, we could extend that. We had 3 days kind of scheduled in here already, which is the tie-in on, it's a Burn or Hutwell, whichever one it is across from Sarnin. We got a handful of repair items that have come in, like the curb valves you guys found that are bent or broken or whatever. There's always a half dozen every winter that we
We
gotta
gotta
go after on
stop
that.
having that happen.
I don't know how to do it. It's like, we bury those things. I mean, typically a new install, if it's not out in the woods, they should be down, but I think plow guys, they push off the road a lot, they keep digging into shoulders and whatnot. And a lot of the times when we do an installation, it changes a lot. Like we see an access driveway, we put it off to the left, put rocks around, and then somebody changes what they're doing, and then it ends up in the middle of the driveway, and you're like, God damn it, it is what it is. So
When I asked Stuart how we protect the gate valves out in a gravel road from the grader,
10 inches deep.
he actually said you can protect it by putting a concrete ring around it, that the grader's gonna know that's hitting.
Believe it or not, we tried that. We tried that on Burn. We hope.
How about in the driveways, a smaller concrete one,
What's that?
to protect the curb stop heads?
Yeah.
Because the driveway, it gets uncovered by the plows and it comes down and starts to expose this thing, and then the next time it comes through, it shears the head off.
Yeah. No, I know. It's tough because we could bury them all 12 inches deep and we could just take that route, right? The problem is, come the middle of winter when they've piled 6 feet of snow, right? Because it's always right at the driveway, and so it tends to be where they pile snow and stuff. You can't find them. I mean, it's like even with a card and everything, you're trying to, it's pretty difficult to.
Wow.
And then in the gravel roads, while we have jacket, we have like a big Hilti and stuff. It's not always on every vehicle that's coming through. So I mean, sometimes it's just it's fine, but it's like when you get into gravel, it's, believe it or not, it's like concrete in the wintertime.
So if we bury them down 12 inches where we're never gonna hit them,
Yeah.
and you can't find them, we tie some metal object to it that comes up, even if it's the metal tape that goes to a flag, where you can detect it and know where it is.
Yes, I think that we drive in a 1-inch piece of steel next to the driveway, next to the curb valve. That's or whatever. I mean, whatever. You get a piece of black iron for $40. That's 4 feet long, pounded in there. You get almost like a pin marker. We just gotta find something people won't take because they always use it for their own devices. So like when we were putting orange stakes at them, that was we were doing that on every one we came to. We ended up doing these little orange flags, and maybe if you guys are going around, you see them because they're just kind of almost hidden. They don't see them to pull them out and take them.
A chain to the
Make it a little easier to come
stem
across.
where you can't get it off by pulling it because you want to use
I mean,
it.
and it doesn't solve. We love, and this isn't just here. It's everywhere we go. When we are out in like the wood line, 12 feet, and we're just not in the road, we like to have them sticking up like a foot or two. If we can have them where they're popping up a little bit, it's nice when you're trying to find them, and and everybody does that, But yeah, I'm with you. We're getting a few too many. It's like every year we have 10 we have to fix out in the road. So
If you find one that its head is bent in the wintertime, it's not buying you anything anyway, because now you gotta dig.
oh yeah,
the
no,
stem out.
no, you're right, and that happens twice a year too. We got to go
You have
fix
to-
it.
You have to stop the insanity.
Yeah. So I guess I would love to just stick a concrete ring around them, but I'm gonna tell you, it's just not gonna do it. They hit it the first time, they know it, they break it, then they just keep going. It's like that's unfortunately not gonna solve the problem. I mean, most of the time when we excavate, you see we drop big rocks all around it. They move them, and then they do. Again, it depends on what state. If the house is built, the driveway's set, we're pretty safe with those ones. It's when we're at a rough lot that hasn't even been, it's maybe been treed and that's it. They have an access driveway, and we're like, all right, it's like we have a lot designed from them. We expect what it's going to be, and then, it doesn't.
When you do the one on
It doesn't
Hutwell,
happen
The
that
driveway's
way.
just 6 feet left, right where we put it. So
when you do the one on Hutwell, can you bury it down
Yep.
12 inches?
I will just start making that the norm.
Secure a chain around the stem. Run the chain to daylight, where you can detect it with your wand.
I'm gonna have to think on this, and I'm gonna get back to you on it, because
Yeah.
I think honestly it's gonna have to be some kind of a post or like a pin or something, because when you start to dig it, if the chain's in the way as you're trying
Yep.
to dig in the winter,
It's gonna
I get to
move.
find something we can.
Obviously, the
we
machine's
can-
gonna catch the chain.
Well, we don't
Yeah.
dig with the machine usually. We usually dig by hand. So we, if it's just finding a curb out, we have it hauled down.
Once you find the
quickly.
top of it, if you can undo the chain and get it out of your way.
It's gonna be fine in the summer. The problem is winter. It's gonna be all frozen into the dirt and then frozen down into it. And again, unless it's under a snowbank, which that presents its own problem. So anyway,
We're not
let
doing
me
that with
think
a shovel in
on
the wintertime.
what's that.
We're not doing that with a shovel in the wintertime.
No, well, believe it or not, we do half of it with
If
it.
you
But
have
if we
to.
can't, if we can't find it, I usually have Jeffy come and, front end load out the snowbank
Yeah,
and hope for the
right.
best. And then if it doesn't go the best, we bring up the equipment and deal with it. But it's, 99% of the time, I'd say when we're digging curb outs, it's 90% of the time we're doing it by hand. We're not bringing anything in. So, I don't have a problem sticking it down 12 inches. The closer to the driveway it is, the harder that becomes, just because that's where snow gets piled. So this isn't a problem.
If it was the standard
9
metal
months of the
tape
year.
you put over a pipe that you bury in.
Yeah,
Now
that
it's
stuff.
not gonna mess with your machine or a
No,
shovel.
but it doesn't. Believe it or not, I can throw a roll of that stuff in front of you. While it's better than nothing, that stuff I can put my metal detector. I'll show you. You take an entire roll of it and put your metal detector on it, and then put it on my steel toe boot. This thing's screaming. That's like, is that there? It's not really. Let me think on the best
Really?
way to, with it cost effectively, mark these things so that we can bury them, so we're not doing, 3, 4, 5 of these things a year on repair.
So along that line, we were detecting something in the driveway of two berged off.
Probably a culvert. How
Huh?
much? No?
No, it was
No?
off to the side, deep into the driveway. So the,
Scrap from the builds too, because
That's-
guys love to do that.
That's
wondering about
kind
that.
of what we're thinking.
We-
Oh, it drives me nuts.
we chasing a Bud Light can 3 feet below
Yeah,
grade now.
you should have seen.
Yeah.
I had to do this one on 302 one time. Quick story. It was New Year's Day. I'm out there. There's like wing walls from the state roads, like 6 feet high, and this person was like a junker. Cars, and like I mean, I must have dug 40 holes down through snow. I'm like, this is not what life is supposed to be. I'm like, I'm so miserable. I would have hauled the equipment over there and like done something, but I didn't have it at the time. And I'm like, what are we supposed? Like, how do you deal with this when there's like, it's like there was a card, but I'm like everywhere within it. You couldn't even. Well, it took like 6 hours to find the damn thing, and it was like, I mean, I had dug up the amount of like chains and car parts, and I'm like, this should be illegal. So the guy, but it happens more than you. It's like it's crazy. We chase the dumbest stuff. All you got is a metal detector. You guess all it is, and you find. You dig up a rock that's full of iron. It happens, we got it. Then it's like no big old rock that's. Just,
Now I don't feel so bad about the time we wasted then.
no, it's there is some skill to it. It's
Least we weren't cold.
some learned.
Yeah.
We have a lot of
Yeah, we
tricks
weren't
that
cold.
you learn to like find cuts in the wood or depressions in the driveways or just layout in general. You just have some little hints from around the property because otherwise, if you don't know where it is, it's like it is literally a needle in a haystack. And then especially in a place like this where we have 30, 40 lots, some of them all over the place. You got lots coming into the back with sometimes no rhyme or reason. You go down like there's still a handful of houses we can't find over on. What's that little Sarnin? I think that we can't figure out where some of the 113s versus Sarnin houses are fed. So that's been kind of an ongoing. It's a small handful of homes, but we'll have to try to figure out. I can go back in history and find which ones those are, but. Someday we'll have to chase those down. We've been trying to get hold of owners to get in so we could like snake a line through or something. But I think a couple of them are left. We're literally going to like just start digging outside and try to. If it's that important to us to find the valve, it's like that's the only way to do it. So
The property owner at 32 Burn Drive.
is that the one with the bent curb valve?
It's got the rod showing through the dirt.
Oh, nice.
The top was sheared off and bent.
Yeah.
He thinks that that's not his curb stop. He thinks that it was looked at a couple of years ago and that they said that it was something that had been abandoned, but nobody ever pulled it out.
Interesting.
So now that the gravel is so low on the road and we're back down to
It was on the
original,
property, right?
it's right in the middle of the driveway.
It's a
Yeah.
paved driveway.
Literally right in the middle of the driveway, right off the edge of the pavement.
It's more
Is
in
it
the
a new
road,
house or an
right?
old house?
It's older than
More than 10 years old.
more than 15.
Yeah, okay. I don't know exactly. So I know guys seen the pictures of if we're talking about the same one. Obviously, what we'll do is get it accessible and then try shutting it off and see if
Yeah,
the house shuts
Well,
off.
if that's not his curb stop, there's got to be another one.
right. It's
And
something.
Is there a card that says where a curb stop is?
Yeah, I
We didn't look yet.
didn't look.
Okay, I don't know that I did either. So I don't know if it's listed somewhere else or not.
Yeah.
32 burn. We'll take a look. But yeah, we'll once we get over there to actually do the work, we'll dig into it a little deeper on what we find. But the assumption will be made up until that. Nothing against this homeowner. You take
exactly.
everything with a grain of salt. That's why I tell
Exactly.
the guys, they're gonna tell you something. Don't react to that until you got to figure stuff out on your own.
Right. That's
Somebody might have told them that once upon a time.
It-
They're like, "Oh, that's
exactly.
Like, it's like I don't know. I didn't put it on."
exactly. But
You know,
at this
"Oh, no,
point,
that's
it
not
looks
yours.
like
That's
a
to the
curb stop.
street." And it's like, who knows? So
Right.
I mean, it's not impossible. There are some abandoned valves. I don't think Burn's not one that I would expect to abandoned valves. There's been no recent main replacement or anything. So a lot of times, some places where there's main replacement, you'll find some old valves that contractors didn't yank out. And
Right.
Again, really nice of them. Chasing ghosts on that stuff, but.
Wow.
Okay, what else have we got? So we got Flushing, which is kind of in that same 2-week span we're looking at. We got that day of construction, road construction stuff over here. I'll let you know actual dates that we're coming as it closes in. I'll give you as close to a week's heads up as I can. But we're gonna have whatever little repairs on the system, and then I don't think we really have much else on the docket at the moment. You know, obviously we'll figure out this stuff with Muddy Beach and keep moving on that, and that's all we got on the. Obviously we got the road valve, so that's all. That 2 week time span might drag into 2 by the sounds of things a little bit because we'll do 3 days a week over here. So it might turn into 2 weeks at the end of May or something. But sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks we plan to be over here and start that stuff. We're just finishing up this job down south, and then that's where we're moving on to.
What sort of time do you need to get the Muddy Beach plan together from your perspective?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly how fast they're gonna put that together for me. Like I said, I'd say 1 to 2 weeks is a fair guess. So I probably won't be getting a hold of them until Friday on it. So
You think we'll have something pretty substantial by the next time you meet with us next month?
yeah.
Okay.
No, we should. I'd absolutely be able to discuss it when I come back for the next meeting. I'll pass it off if I get it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, send it
Yeah.
earlier if you can.
It's always nice to have 24 hours to look at stuff beforehand. So, as soon as I can get that over into you guys' hands, I will. But I would, like I said, 2 weeks would be my guess. Just gives us some back and forth. They need a sample. Sometimes sample take 5 to 7 days to get back results. So it's hard to say.
I know we established we have more breathing room now, but that.
No.
I don't want to get lax on this.
You look up and everything closes really quick. Believe me, I see it every day. You're like, my God,
I
how's it
still
been 2
need to
months?
be
But
pushing ahead.
yeah, no, I get it. So we'll keep on it. Like I said, anything else comes up, we'll let you know. But yeah, we can plan to do and get you numbers over on that T intersection and the other valve too, because that's the cost of that T intersection is going to be in the valves. It's 4-inch T, 4-inch valves, 4-inch adapters, Fosters, all that stuff is more than likely that'll be 2 days between the two. What we'll do is we'll dig up Aspen, confirm the pipe, see what we're into, prep the materials, build the valve cluster, and then fill it with sand. I'm not sure exactly where that is in the road. If it's possible to leave it open and blockade it, we will. If it's not, then we'll sand it in and dig it up a second time. Just because we try to do it all in one day, sometimes it just it doesn't go well. So we'll make sure you go and you think it's going to be 2 inches and then it's going to be some section 4 inch they install. Changes everything.
Yep.
So anyway, that's what that usually looks like. So we'll spend half the day finding out what we have, half the day installing the other valve, and then we'll do the second day to install the valve cluster. So we'll plan the shutoffs and all that stuff as we get a little closer to it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys.
Skater.
Oh, skated. Yes, thank you. That's why I'm glad you remembered. Where do we stand with that? Anywhere? Is Tom have another day scheduled in here or anything?
Mm-mm.
Do you guys want me to call
Yeah, sure.
Okay. him? I'll talk to Tommy.
Yeah, any additional
Yeah.
Pressure.
pressure will
He's always
be
been tough,
helpful.
But it's he's like in partially retired land now, I think. So I honestly I didn't think he was doing it anymore. So
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we
if
do
he
have
doesn't
another.
do it, who's the next company up?
Well, no, it's other techs at
It's the-
EII.
I honestly do
They don't
believe that
exist.
you stick
I don't
with.
believe it.
80 Instruments is another company in the general area that offers SCADA programming to the level that we have. Like Ari Prescott, who I work with, does SCADA paneling, but it's in a very different, it's not the code writing. But they write their own code for their program, but they don't really do it on systems at large. And we don't want to look at replacing panels or anything. So it's, I think we have to stick with the right writers, which is going to be EII or 80 Instruments. And, I think, God, Tom's been great for us for a very long time. So I don't want to, whatever. But it's, like I said, Tom's definitely slowed down. I do think they probably have other people that are going to eventually take his role. I met some of them down in Effingham on a job, and they seem like they're pretty good. I don't know that this is the. I think I've known, like I said, I've known Tom a long time, and he was very overworked over there. He knew what he was doing, and they piled a ton of stuff on him. He's in 100 different directions all the time. So I don't know if that's what it still looks like for him. I literally thought he had retired because we haven't really talked to him. He told me he was retiring, and I thought he had, but
I feel we're at the point that we're irresponsible now.
I understand
We're
that.
not solving this.
So let's let me reach out again. Is there any hang up from our side on it? Because I'm not in the loop. Is there anything we're blockading or anything?
Yeah, we're waiting for the new computer
So
for the SCADA.
he's got a go ahead on it, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
Yeah,
no, the answer is no. We're
Over a
just,
year ago.
over a year.
We're waiting on work.
It's
Yes,
gonna be 2 years now.
yes, we're waiting
We
on.
lost a $25,000 grant in the process.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's. I guess the next one up that I'm aware of is 80 Instruments. From there, there's a company out of Vermont. I'm spacing it on it. I worked with him over in Cannon. Oh man. Anyway, he might be the guy. He's pretty good. Definitely a little bit more. I'm gonna use archaic. He uses a little bit older technologies and stuff, but the guy's been doing it like forever, and so that's also kind of a problem. We don't need another guy that's like aging out on it. So, so I would say if you guys wanted to, the next reach out, the other company I know of is 80 Instruments. That I don't have any personal connection to them. It's been 20 years since I worked with them over in Jackson, so I couldn't give you anything hide or hair over what they do or don't do. But
we have a plan in place already with Tom. It's just
I understand that.
Just a matter of executing.
The best solution here is to get him to come over and finish it
Right,
up.
to
Once
get him
it's
to
done,
actually
it's
do
done,
it.
and then in the future, if we need to look at someone.
Yeah, get a clean slate and move forward. And if it really keeps stonewalling, maybe put that feeler out and see what those guys would do. Because I mean, you guys, we already know that they would probably be over here in a week because you're a new customer, and that's the way that stuff works. So if push comes to shove, you can probably get somebody here pretty quickly. So keep in your back pocket 80 Instruments as a backup.
Yeah, because he did
And
tell
they're
us
just
the
as local.
computer
I mean, I
was
think
ready. It was just a matter of him getting over here to install it. And that was
a month
weeks
now.
ago, maybe a month ago.
Just about a month ago.
Yeah.
Well, for at least a portion of time, and I haven't had any other connection to it, but that one day that I called you, we were getting calls from the auto that
That's
way.
when we had that, our IT person.
So is that someone different from the SCADA person?
Oh, yeah, she's,
Okay, so this
she's
is-
not a.
She
she's
can't
not a
touch
part of-
So this was an
SCADA
IT
system.
phone line,
She had
communication.
she had to get Tom to assist her with certain things.
So what,
And he was very beneficial in helping her out. I was
Okay.
very thankful for that.
Good.
But she can't resolve.
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
I
that that's who
mean,
we had. I thought Tom was the one
She
working
could
on
try, but that's not her,
No.
that's not why we have
it.
her.
When you have Tom there, he can work on that stuff too.
Right.
Right.
Right. Tom keeps that side of the separate from
Gotcha.
the office, and the woman that's working with Jennifer is for the office.
Out of curiosity, have you guys reached directly out to EII's office as opposed to directly to Tom?
I found the information, so that will be a step we can take.
Because I think that we can all be guilty of that as well as we get the tech. And Tom is and has been our tech for
Right.
decades over here. I mean,
Right.
tech for 10 plus years
Yep.
anyway. But call to the office, not to go around Tom, so to say, but also we're trying to schedule through a field guy. I know how difficult that can be. Maybe going directly to the office and giving them the opportunity to give us a body over here.
Yeah.
So let's if I were in you guys' shoes, that would be the first call I make is the EII's main office and just say, hey, we're a customer of yours and we've got this lined up and you guys have a price and you have a go ahead and we need it done like yesterday, like a year ago.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we'll call EII, but you'll try and directly
I'll talk to Tom.
liaison with Tom.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yep. All right. Okay. Yeah, you guys have anything for me, right? Outside of all the fun we've already had.
No, that's been enough fun.
All right. Excellent, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You may need things to dry out before you can dig anyway.
I know this is ridiculous.
You didn't hear Jeff talk about not wanting the grader to get stuck.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I mean, we've had to push off all our outside work. We've been trying to find everything indoors because it's just.
Wow.
It's been. I guess we've had a few good days outside, but it was still, as soon as it's been like road bands lifted, it's been nightmares out there. So it is what it is. But thanks, guys.
Have a good
All
one.
right.
Have a good one.
Okay, at 10:54, we move to scheduled appearances of non-administrators report. And we have anything under other items that gets into administrative stuff. We want to talk about financial planning. And you sent some email about the cash flow spreadsheet. Is it possible to get, I talked to the treasurer about this. I think of what the monthly burn rate is in terms of the manifests that we sign in a month. And that would be what the spreadsheet gets. The treasurer thinks of it in terms of the bank statements.
Yes, she does.
And the bank statements are the result of the manifests
Yes.
that we approve. And they should be the same. It's a matter of whether the manifests line up within the month and where the bank statements line up within the month.
Right.
So traditionally, I guess it's been the bank statements that have driven the cash flow report in the past, not the manifests. Do you happen to remember off the top of your head?
Cash, the bank statements.
The bank statements,
Yeah.
which are in the office.
Yes.
Okay. So what I thought we would do is start to make this a regular thing where we're looking at resurrecting the profit and loss statements when we look at them each month. Because this year, unlike this year is going to be completely different than last year. I'm looking at what it's going to take to get these FEMA projects done. There's going to be a lot of detailed information that's not only about where stuff is going on the roads and what's happening out there, but tracking the financial part of this. And tracking the finances in general, because we're doing this strategy of parlaying the reimbursements back from FEMA. So I would not say that FEMA has officially got my request for reimbursement, but I think I've submitted everything. I will ask Holly if that's all I need to do. I think they're cooking on what I sent them. Anyway, can we start with the cash flow, which you've had zero experience discussing one of those at a meeting?
Right.
And you may faintly remember what it looks like from seeing it.
I remember seeing it, yeah.
What I thought we would do is start off, it doesn't have to be complete, but you start seeing the nature of it, and then there's pieces of it that we start to absorb. I think Dinah thinks that the burn rate has actually gone down per month of what it used to be.
Huh?
The what rate?
The burn rate, how much money we
much
burn
we spend.
Oh,
each
gotcha.
month.
Okay.
It used to be the number 55,000 was the burn rate when we first started doing this many years ago.
Many years ago.
And I would like to start to get a feel of what it is now.
Yeah.
Do you have a feel? You have an idea? I mean, by looking, I don't have bank statements.
Right.
I have all of the manifests. So I could figure it out, but I
Yeah.
thought we should start doing that all together so we're all on the same page and we
Right.
start to internalize this stuff.
Yeah.
Including you, because she has it already. She's been doing this the greater portion of her adult life. And you just can't wait to get your teeth into this.
No, I
Right,
can't.
but you're taking into account salaries as well, employees and salaries and all this, right? That's part
Any
of the whole
cash out the
thing.
door?
That's the burn rate.
Any
Right.
cash out the door?
So, I can see.
That comes out of the
we're-
bank.
Yeah.
In
I-
general,
You need to get a feeling for this too.
Oh, yeah.
And waiting for us to completely populate that spreadsheet is not the way I think we should do it. If
Well,
we,
Dinah is already working on that.
generally that spreadsheet is water.
Oh. Okay. This throws something else into it. I thought it was strictly operations, but it's not. Dinah
What are
thought
you
it was
talking about?
operations as well.
Well, because. All right, yeah,
Okay.
I'll scratch that.
maybe the
I'm
other way around.
relieved.
Huh?
It should
Maybe-
be two
maybe the
cash
other way
flow
around.
statements.
Right,
We don't do the burn rate on water,
right,
because we don't do tax anticipation
Correct.
notes for water.
Thank
correct,
you.
correct. I was thinking of
She's
it. I was
cleaning-
thinking of it backwards. I'm sorry.
That's
She's
okay.
pleading temporary insanity.
I think I get to do that.
Right, yes you do.
Yeah,
Because if you're not insane, we're gonna get you there. You too.
you do. You me too. Okay.
So you get the picture is there's no pressure to get the thing done by a deadline,
Yeah,
but if you nibble away at it, each piece that we review each week
right.
brings us
Closer.
closer to, so that we're not getting that thing. It's pretty complex when it's all filled in,
Right.
and it's better that we do it this way, I think.
But I think if we, like you said, start nibbling at it, putting together the things we know so we can populate the part that says what loans and what
Yeah.
dates,
That's the next
what
big thing.
years, what,
Anticipation of-
you know, what
Right.
the date for the loan is. you know, so that can get populated into that month,
Because what I don't
you
want to
know,
do is
because we don't wanna,
be
Cut.
rushed into getting the lawyer's letter, getting it into the bank when
Right,
the
for
cash
when,
flow.
exactly,
So,
and have it,
so I want to start now so that you're
Yes.
not under any stress to get this
I get you.
right,
plan done. So it doesn't require the whole cash flow statement to be filled out, but we have to, I'm suggesting that we agree that we start.
yes,
Yes, and I think Dinah was fully aware of that, and that's why she came into the office and I assisted her in pulling data. So she knows exactly what needed to be pulled.
So, do you think, when do you want to do the first, if we said to Jennifer, in 2 weeks, we want to do our first review of a cash flow statement, and if it had what the monthly burn rate is for January, February, March, April, because that's already,
Right.
that's documented, and it has the major expenses already paid, and the ones to come, which are usually lease payments, purchase payments, for
insurance
equipment,
payments,
insurance,
No upcoming costs, yeah.
right,
the big bills that are gonna affect when you want the tan.
right,
That you can't rely just on the monthly burn rate, because one of these big bills will throw you off schedule.
Right.
Dinah's already pulled all that, she's
Right.
got it
and,
all.
and that's where, one of those things, when you, depending on how you look at it, you can see it for, at the very top portion, showing the monthly burn rate. But you can also put in, you know, this is a choice, as to whether you wanna keep that number, say we're spending 50,000 a year, 50,000 a month. Do you wanna keep that 50 all year? Or do you wanna have it increased on the months that we have large expenses coming in? And that way, it would be much higher when the property liability is due.
Right,
So July would be much higher. And then below it, in the next section, from the old ones, we could list, you know, what changes those numbers, like, that's the property liability, you know, and put it in for that month, you know, so you can determine whether we wanna put the numbers in both spots,
oh.
you know?
I see.
And that was, I had a conversation with Dinah, and she was thinking, well, maybe we wouldn't put the numbers, you know, duplicate the numbers, but I'm thinking maybe we should.
Really? So
You
it
know,
gives you an
So,
adequate
so
monthly
you'd look,
kind of,
you'd look at July saying that's gonna be a much higher month because that's the property liability month payment, and look below it to see that's the P and L, payment, or, John Deere payment, or, you know, whatever the big payment is. You know, so you kind of separate them between the two, or you can keep them separate so that this number is always the same for the burn rate, and then you have to look below and figure out when something else is coming in. So there's really two different ways you can kind of put them together.
Okay.
How are you for time?
We're getting close, I think.
I need to throw it real soon, so if there's a signature item that I need to sign, I should do that now. Like anything that needs my signature.
permit for operations. So this is, 57 Eidelweiss Drive, who was given his permit for, construction a while back. He's completed.
Remember this one?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, okay.
He also wants to pave, I thought I read.
So it brings up now, he wants to be allowed to pave. So he's done that application, sent in his payment,
So there should be a motion to approve that, what they just made.
right, which
Needs a
is,
second.
I'll second.
Yeah,
All in favor of that
aye.
application? 3-0 on the
okay,
application.
so,
Anything else you need, Waterfall?
Do I need to sign the manifest?
this is the Blinden guy. This is his actual driveway for construction. that you guys need to
Yep.
sign.
Make a motion to approve this application. So what do we sign out in the road? This is the one we just did last
The-
week.
Yeah,
That's the
we signed the inspection report.
Okay. So motion to approve this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So getting back to the Eidelweiss guy, I printed up an inspection for his paving. So I don't know when you guys wanna schedule for that to give him the go-ahead to get his contractor out there to do it.
Should we recess this and try to do it on the way home? And if it's not pouring out?
Well, we looked at his driveway not too long ago.
You did, and he
Everything was set up properly,
Yeah, the
so
negative grade, he did all that. So
is,
he complied, he said he complied. I would assume you'd wanna kinda go out there and validate.
take,
do.
yeah, take a quick look at it.
And
So we'll
give
recess
us the
this and try
go-ahead.
it.
Okay,
You take this with us?
yep.
Okay, is there anything else I need to sign?
I'm not thinking. You do.
Okay,
I thought.
alright, hold on a moment, please.
Shouldn't sign the manifest because we modified it. She needs to change what the manifest says.
Oh, okay, I probably missed something in my.
We increased it by 1,500.
Yeah, but didn't you do that?
You can put a note on it and sign it.
Yeah,
Wood'a wasn't here yet.
that's correct.
So, why don't I just do that?
Yeah, I don't know if you wanna make an indication here
Yeah,
or
go ahead.
something.
Go ahead.
We're adding
1,500 for the Hoyt.
The concrete guy.
concrete to the manifest.
Oh, okay.
So the number you have is increased by 1,500.
Right, and the total here is now 3,043.94. This only requires one signature. This is a gentleman, that wants to park his pop-up camper trailer.
Larry Leonard.
We haven't discussed that yet, and currently, the way the ordinance is written, it says vehicles only.
Doesn't have a dashboard.
Doesn't have a dashboard.
Doesn't have a dashboard, but doesn't the ordinance say something about trailers?
No,
No.
the old one did, the new one does not.
I gotcha.
The new one says vehicles.
So we're probably not gonna discuss,
We're probably not gonna get into that discussion
Okay.
today,
like this.
because I want Wood'a to be part of that too.
Oh, okay.
Since he went ahead and, rearranged that entire section,
Gotcha.
In a draft.
in a draft. So,
I didn't do that.
You gotta sign this, Mark.
What was that? What are you talking about?
isn't that
Today is the
Wood'a edit?
5,
Six.
6.
Oh, when we were looking, okay, that was just a draft, right, when we were just taking a look at things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
when we were focused on this and we lost focus.
Right.
So that's not your intention, you're just doing a draft for us.
that was the draft he did
That
back,
was
way back.
strictly for discussion, that's it. I mean,
Oh, and this was
That
an
is
old
correct.
draft?
That had nothing, that wasn't part of the approval. This was when we were commissioners and wanted to take a look at it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's
No, no,
correct.
Oh, so just like mine, it's an old.
Right, I
Okay.
had nothing to do with the
Right,
creation of the
so-
ordinance that's now.
Oh,
in
no,
effect.
I
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
that. We all know that.
Okay.
So I'm still battling with the point, does the ordinance say about trailers?
At this point, it says vehicles. The actual
Right.
ordinance
You think it's there.
online says vehicles.
Okay, so the copy that I printed way back, when we were first discussing this, I mean, I don't
Off
know
the
what
website.
version it is.
Is it on the
That's-
website?
That's an old one.
It's definitely an old.
That's an
one.
old one.
Look at the
And
website.
why did we use this when we were talking
Because
about
we
it?
were thinking on trying to get back to that, and then the annual meeting happened and everything
All right.
got rearranged.
Okay, very good. So I essentially know my response to Larry.
Should be a vote.
we should take a vote.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we not accept that permit to park a trailer in the Hotwell parking lot because it's not in the regulations.
Second.
Should we have a discussion with whatever? So you wanna vote on it now? He's on the run.
Yeah, he needs to,
How do you vote?
aye.
2-0. Stick that in the notebook.
okay, very good.
That's the note that I had sent around, yesterday was that it doesn't say any of that in the current ordinance.
We voted
You know.
2-0 to not accept that application to park a trailer because the current regulation doesn't allow it.
Doesn't
Okay.
allow it.
Okay.
Have a good trip.
All right.
Alrighty.
See you later. All right, so we kind of jumped around to
Yeah,
facilitate. That's okay.
organize myself here.
Let's see what we do want to do for the rest of this meeting.
Yeah, because you're not gonna talk about the parking and highway ordinance.
Nope, we're gonna hold that for next week.
Okay,
So if we could make sure that that winds up on next week.
you guys are recessing
To do a driveway
to
inspection.
do the driveway inspection for the paving.
I'd like to talk about this green space auction. We voted previously to set the auction date, that the sealed bids had to be back by June 6th,
Yes.
and today's May 6th. Today, the actual invitation to bid would have had to be sent out, and I ran out of time, so I need to adjust the date out.
Okay,
I think I adjusted it in the draft that I did of, I combined the bid form, sealed bid form, with the actual purchase and sale agreement.
yeah,
So everybody knows exactly what they're bidding on, because the terms and conditions of how they're gonna buy this thing if they're the winning bid is also the bid form. And it saves us from having to go through
I gotcha.
two procedures to get this done.
Mhm.
Award the bid and then send somebody a purchase and sale agreement.
Oh,
So it's a sealed bid
Yeah.
and purchase and
yeah,
sale
yeah,
agreement.
right.
So yeah, I had plenty of time this weekend on top of the FEMA stuff. Before I finalize this, I need to speak with Alpine Title.
Right, you said that.
So I need more time.
Yeah,
Okay.
And let's see, I'm saying, just to give you the dates, look at the dates of what this currently says. It says that we will, does it say when the bid is due? Yes, this says, this agreement is made the 24th of June.
mm-hmm,
That's when the sealed bids would have to be in and we open them and sign the winning bid.
Okay.
So that's moved up to the 24th of June, as opposed to June 6th.
gotcha,
So that's plenty of time.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm gonna make a motion that we slide the date that we voted for the bids to be in from June 6th to June 24th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2-0 on that. And so we get the bids in before the meeting, which is a Tuesday, the 24th is a Tuesday in June. We open the bids, we see which one is fully filled in and which one has the highest bid.
gotcha,
Then they have until, July 8th
July 8th. Yep.
to get a check for the bid amount for the sale price to Alpine Title to go into escrow.
Yes.
the winning bidder, you mean?
Only
Yes.
the winning bidder.
Only the winning bidder, yeah,
And they then begin to pursue merging the lot through the town of Madison,
right,
which they have to do by December 10th.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I need to find out what Alpine Title needs from the time that the purchase and sale is signed and they get the escrow check to when that they do a title search at the cost of the buyer and create a deed
Right,
of a merge. So that's the trick, is I need them to say what's reasonable in
what's
this
reasonable
agreement
for time,
that they understand and can do,
yes,
Oh, right.
which is why I needed to be able to
Yeah,
talk to them.
that's tricky, boy.
Yeah,
yeah,
just writing it is tricky.
Yeah,
you did very
The
well.
good thing is, well, I've done it before, that's
Yeah.
what helped,
yeah,
so.
okay.
That's what I needed, is to change the date of record. All right, it's 11:16. And,
Are we all set with that swale vote that you wanted me to put down?
yep,
Okay,
Yep,
we're holding off on the ordinances, we're doing
Yeah.
this inspection, signature items, we did the permit.
Yep.
I kinda did my commission's report, and yours was gonna be the ordinances. Unless you have
Pretty-
something else too.
pretty much, but,
oh, porta potties.
oh, yeah,
You said that they could either come in May 20th or 21st,
yep,
otherwise it would be after Memorial.
correct.
I want to make a motion that we have the porta potties come in May 20th or 21st, whatever day they can.
Before Memorial.
Yes.
Yep,
Second.
Aye.
3-2-0 May porta potty installation, and Jeff already has the stakes in place.
Yeah. And that was the other, yeah, the rest was on the ordinance, and we'll be discussing that next week, will be my guess.
I can certainly put it for next week.
Yes,
If
please.
there's nothing else, we'll make a motion to recess then. Do the
Second.
driveway inspection. All in favor of recessing at 1:18,
11.
11:18.
If it was 1, you'd have to bring me to lunch.
It was that close.
Yeah.
So we're 2-0 on recess.